Good evening, everyone. This is Mayor Cornell Harvey sitting alongside Commissioner Julie Martin and Commissioner Vincent Williams. Our Mayor Pro Tem Felicia Harris is online virtually, and also our Commissioner Johnny Casey is online virtually. I'd like to call to order of our work session dated Wednesday, December the 1st. This is, as I said, it's a hybrid meeting where the three of us are here at Old City Hall, and also our Mayor Pro Tem and our other commissioner is with us via Zoom. So we have one item on our agenda for this evening for our work session. And it is a presentation by Georgia Department of Natural Resources Environmental Protection Division, Ms. Beth Stevenson, who is the Coast District Manager, and Brett Berry, who's a Program Manager, to update us on the local air quality complaint investigation, and also Deanna Ozer, Program Manager for the Ambient Air Monitoring Program with the Georgia DNR Environmental Protection Division, Air Protection Branch. They will share an update regarding the 2021 Ambient Air Monitoring Plan. Before I start or ask them to present, there have been a number of complaints coming from our residents concerning the air quality, especially on the south end of town. And it has been prevalent. It's been really, for lack of a better word, pungent. And it has really caused some issues with our residents, and it also has caused a financial burden on them as well, because they had to leave their residence and to move elsewhere to actually to have a quality of life. This is not the first time we've had. It's not the first time we've had complaints concerning the smell. We attempted to investigate and find out where it was coming from the previous time, and we were not successful in that quest. However, we're here this evening to get an update from the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, Environmental Protection Division. So I'll leave that right there and ask them to give us an update. Ms. Stevenson, are you on board?
I'm here. Can you all hear me?
Now we can.
Okay. All right. So my name is Beth Stevenson, and I'm with the local district office, and we're actually located here in Brunswick off of exit 29. I'm the district manager, and I also have on the call as well Brett Berry. He's a program manager in our office. We cover about 25 counties, and Brett handles the part of the district that includes Brunswick and Glen County. So I'll just give you just a little bit of history of where we've been with the complaints, and then kind of get into what we've been doing since last year. It started back November, December 2020, and up until from then up until yesterday, we've received about 235 complaints regarding odors in the Brunswick area. We went from a high of 82 in January, followed by just 20 in February, and the number of complaints steadily decreased throughout the spring and summer. We did not receive any odor complaints for September. And then about mid-October, we started receiving complaints again. We received 8 total in that month. And then we've had close to 50 for November. So there's definitely been kind of a uptick. Most of the complaints come to us as emails. Occasionally we'll get a phone call. Each complaint that we receive, we enter in an Excel spreadsheet. We also we have a Google Earth layer that we keep with all of the locations from where we're receiving complaints. And an entry is also made in our EPD complaint tracking database. We have like a single complaint that's been open since this all started, And each entry is entered in that database along with, you know, the routes, the different things that we've been doing. So the complaints vary widely in specificity, and depending on the nature of the complaint, we might go out and investigate right away. We also coordinate with the air quality program, the folks that are also on the line from Georgia EPD. And we coordinate with, you know, other entities as needed, like joint water and sewer, different facilities, Pinova, Brunswick Cellulose, and others, as well as Academy Creek. Initially in January, February, we instituted driving routes throughout Brunswick to kind of cover the areas where we thought some of the odors might be coming from, and also to kind of cover those areas where we were getting a lot of complaints. The result of that has been varied, you know, and that was all in an effort to sort of locate like a single source or something that's unpermitted, something of that nature. And we just haven't had much result from that. Both the district and the air quality program, we've conducted a variety of inspections, not just air inspections, but water quality inspections, a landfill inspection, and a lot of some inspections for our minor air quality permits as well, in an effort to determine, you know, what might be contributing to this issue. So let's see, the air modeling unit out of Atlanta also took some of the data they actually took the December through February complaints, and they were able to analyze back trajectories in an effort to determine the source of the odor complaints. The conclusion of that modeling effort was that the sources are likely in or near a 1 mile buffer zone surrounding Brunswick Cellulose and Academy Creek. So in the district office, you know, we're the eyes, ears, and nose for EPD, and we kind of try to keep, you know, we keep the data. We try to coordinate amongst a variety of people to try to, you know, bring in ideas about where this is coming from. Also to make sure that everybody who might be a contributor is aware of the complaints and what's going on. Our current priority at this point is to actually close that complaint that we have, that giant complaint that's been open for a year. And once we close it, that will make it available to the public. We, you know, anticipate opening up a new complaint to take in, you know, assuming that additional odor complaints are going to come in. And once we do close that out, which we expect it to be soon, I mean, we're working on that, towards that every day, we will make some sort of announcement about that and give instruction on where people can go to access it and look at it. So I guess you know, I mean, I'd like to thank everyone that's on the call, you know, for, you know, taking the time to make the complaints, to contribute that. And I would like to seek some input tonight as far as any ideas as how to best reach the community and announcing, you know, and giving instructions on how to access that information. So that's what I have.
Stevenson, I know you said quite a bit.
Okay.
But I wonder, can you break that down a little more and to tell us where you think that smell is coming from?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say. And part of that just has to do with the variability of the complaints. And the lack of, or the type of descriptions that are given. I will go back to, the result of the modeling effort was that the sources are likely in or near a 1 mile buffer zone surrounding Brunswick Cellulose and Academy Creek. But, just note that modeling effort was done with all of the complaints that we had at the time, but now we've got more data at this point.
And did you take in consideration the golden ray as to what has been brought to our port down here that's had maybe a factor in that smell as well?
I don't believe that was included in the modeling. However, as far as the activities that our district personnel carried out, we did make visits, to those areas when the parts were docked, and included that area in some of our routes that we drove as well.
And your finding when you made those visits?
It did not seem consistent with the types of descriptions of the odors that we were receiving, both in terms of, its potency and the type of smell that we observed when we were actually, on the dock.
Well, we have Pine Nova and we have Academy Creek that's been with us for years and years.
Right.
And it just seemed like this smell kind of creeped up on us. And the only factor that we can determine maybe is some of the underwater cars and whatever that was underwater during this time when the golden ray submerged.
Sure.
Port related. I don't know if y'all pinpointed the locations of where these people live that are making, experiencing the bad odors or the caustic, fumes, whatever the situation is, or if they're closer down towards the industrial port end, or are they closer up towards Academy Creek? We all kind of know what Academy Creek smells like. So,
Right.
Have y'all determined that it's a smell different than Academy Creek? I mean, it's always so difficult to describe a smell.
It really is. And that's been a struggle. When we have occasionally we've had the opportunity, where we get someone that calls in and says, I'm experiencing this right now. It's been going on for a while. It's in this location, and, we run out there and we don't experience the same thing often. That's just kind of the way it has run. So it's just really hard to, to looking at the descriptions, reading each one. It's hard to ascertain what it is that people are trying to describe sometimes. I will say, just kind of looking at, we have the locations of the odor complaints, where they're coming from, on a map. And the majority come from, if you think of like a square made by Prince, Union, Albany, and First Ave, that's where I would say the bulk of the complaints are kind of coming from. But they are sort of spread out up to the north. We've had a few from St. Simon's, and then even a couple as far away as Jekyll Island. So,
did you all track the time that the smells were coming out?
We ask, and that's a really good point. We ask that for anyone that's in the call that might want to report an odor, to send in the location the time, the temperature, the wind direction if possible, and the duration that you've experienced it, and just along with kind of a description of what you are experiencing. We do get the time often, but not like a duration.
This is Mayor Pro Tem. So with all of the information that has been given.
Yes, ma'am.
And this is respectfully, being respectfully stated, because I know you're just a messenger. So primarily, really, we hadn't been told a whole bunch of anything. Because, I mean, the reports and the information that's been provided really doesn't give us a resolution to what we are experiencing, because I'm also on the south end as well. And what these people, what our citizens, our constituents are experiencing. And so, I mean, even though I respect and thank you for coming to provide this information, because they need to know that we are making efforts and trying to get some type of resolution on their behalves as well as our own behalves as city Brunswick residents. But we really still don't know anything. Cellulose, we don't know if it's cellulose. We don't know if it's Academy Creek. We don't know if it's the ship being where it is now. And so the immediate resolution for those that are experiencing these problems and having to find financial alternatives to deal with this. I mean, this really doesn't tell them anything. And for me to have to tell someone, wait for this report to come out, and really based upon the information that's been provided, I don't see anything that's gonna give us any type of resolution in the report. So from that perspective, what's the resolution?
Yeah, I mean, as an office here, and anyone from the air branch that wants to, talk more about what, going forward. I mean, in the district, what we will continue to do is to take the complaints and, try to get them into, the right hands as far as, if we think it's a facility, then we will certainly, do those inspections and take a look at that. If we think it's an issue dealing with the wastewater treatment plan or the collection system or something like that, we've been engaged in, kind of running down those issues.
How long is it gonna take you to run down those issues?
I don't know.
Yeah, this is Johnny Cason. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
Could you explain to us, you were going to close out the November through December of 2020, the complaints that you had?
Mhm.
What type
Yes.
of information will be available that the people can get? You said you would make that public.
Right. Once
And
we
how will it be
close,
made- how will it be made public?
right now everyone has access to the Environmental Protection Branch, to our, to the EPD complaint tracking system database. You can see and query for closed complaints. When the complaints open, you can't see all of the details. And that's one reason why we wanted to go ahead and get it closed. So all of, the community and you folks, everyone has access to see what we've done so far. So this will span December of 2020 up through the end of November yesterday. And what it includes are all the inspections that have been done to date at facilities. It also includes the driving routes that we've done, what we observed or didn't observe, and various write-ups just as we've gone about, kind of trying to find out trying to determine, what is the source of this. Also included will be a PowerPoint presentation describing the air modeling units analysis and the back trajectories and their conclusion. So it's a lengthy document. Just the entries itself are lengthy, going through and reading all of everyone's complaint and then all of the associated attachments. Can you think of anything I missed there, Brett, about what's included?
No, I was just gonna say what you just mentioned. I mean, each of the complaints that we get, whether it's an email or, telephone call, I'll write a description of the complaint, but the emails word for word are more or less all in the CTS complaint that'll be closed out. So each of those separate complaints that we received will be visible in that file. So the intent is to make that available for the public to be able to see everything that we've done and all the complaints that we've received. And as Beth mentioned, doesn't mean we're going to stop taking complaints. The new complaints that we receive will just be entered under a separate complaint file. So we'll be going about it in that way. But all the previous investigation will be publicly available once we close out the initial complaint.
So in that complaint, are there specifics as to the perpetrators? Are we getting specifics as to the problems? Because I mean, the report can tell, we can go and read a 300-page report and still not get an answer
Right.
to our question. And so this is something that I thought of, because we've got several people, I think maybe on the line, that have made complaints, that have sent emails, etc. Has any of them been contacted directly? Because smells can be captured, and they can be captured in people's homes. They can be captured in their furnishings, in drapery. It can be captured in people's homes. And so has anybody been contacted directly to possibly, I don't know if they may want to open up their homes or what have you, to this, but to have someone come in and just like pets leave odors in your furnishings, these smells get into people's homes and are captured within their homes in different furnishings and stuff. So has anybody thought about possibly doing any direct contact investigations?
I don't know. I mean, are you asking if we could, I mean, I don't think we could take air samples or anything like that. I mean, we could certainly, make contact with the, we've got a few people that have made many complaints, and we were just talking about, how should we address those folks? I don't feel like it's really appropriate to just, announce in the newspaper, we closed the account, the complaint, here's how you access it. We were talking about and discussing how to, kind of do a one-on-one with some of the folks that have made a lot of complaints.
And that's what I'm saying. If you could
Yeah.
contact some of them
Right.
directly, and maybe they may have
Yeah.
a sample of a piece of drapery or something, because I know you were saying that it's hard to capture that smell from the
Right,
written complaints, but maybe
right,
it may be captured materially,
Right.
physically in a piece of material, and they may say,
okay,
this is the smell we're talking about.
okay,
And can you analyze that?
Okay.
To find out specifics.
We have about, I think we came up with a list of about 6 folks that we thought we probably, we would want to talk to one-on-one, just because of the number of complaints that they've put in.
All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Well, that leads me to another question, though. We have people that we reach out to, at Academy Creek, at the facilities, Who can we reach out to, like, in the city? Just to kind of keep you guys up to date on, where we're at, what's the kind of, the trends and what's going on, what we're
You
doing.
can reach out to our city manager. She would take all complaints, as she does when the complaints come in. They come to her anyhow.
Okay,
So, but I think what really is troubling us is that we are seeming like, just like all typical government, we look at stuff, but we never really give a factual answer of how to solve something. And our citizens look at us like, yeah, you government, but you're not doing anything other than listening maybe and taking data, but what are we gonna do with it? And how long it's gonna take to get that data dispensed to have something be done? Because as you said, these complaints just didn't start overnight. I mean, they've been complaining for a good little bit now.
They
Most
have.
of the year.
yeah, right. But something happened, it dropped off. And now it's picking back up again.
A little more proactive happening
Yeah.
in
Gotta
trying
come to
to
some
determine
resolution at
where
some
the
point.
odors are coming from. I don't get that sense right now. I feel like this meeting is just placating us, letting us know you're out there looking around and trying to figure it out, but you haven't come to any conclusion. And, some people have allergies, other people don't. Some people smell certain things, other people don't. But for the folks that are, it seems to be, from the complaints I've read, rather caustic. It makes their eyes water. It makes them cough. They can't sleep at night. So, I realize it may be a small part of the population, but those are city residents and their issues need to be addressed effectively.
Yeah, well, it's like the Hercules situation and like the Liberty Roll-Off situation. Everybody's not experiencing it, but it does not negate that it's happening, and that there are a small portion of the population that are being affected by this directly. And so something needs to be done. I mean, an urgency needs to be put to this. Some people may be immune to it. They may be more apt to be able to deal with it. And like you said, Commissioner Martin, some people, it affects them a little worse than it does others and stuff. And so we need to find this out, because I am disturbed when I get emails and these people are experiencing these things, and then it's causing them to have to be removed from their homes and properties and stuff. And that's a big no-no.
Well, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners, this is, you say it's affecting a small port, but I would beg to differ that our whole community is affected by it. I have had people question me who are moving into the community and asking, is this something that, persists all year long? Is it something I'm going to have to deal with? Should I look at it and making the choices of moving in town or out of town? So, it's something that's very impactful to the growth and development in our community. And we certainly need to address it directly. I think you're right. We're on sort of a gopher wheel here when you don't answer and, be able to make at least some strides in correcting the problem. And I'm always thinking, if we can go to the moon and put people in space, surely we ought to be able to find the smell.
And I think that's a good point, and I don't argue that point. When you talk about the smell and what we experience from Academy Creek, that does affect a huge population within the city. And I guess I was thinking more of the fewer folks who have true reactions to, maybe it is Academy Creek, I don't know, but whatever it is, they have a much more profound effect or situation that they're seem to be dealing with.
Well, and I said what I said because I took a compilation of all of these factors that are factoring into the smell. And so, I mean, the people were told that same thing over by Hercules Pinova area. And look what it led to, and the cause and effects that these people had to deal with. So I'm just saying, you can give me reports after reports, and I work for the federal government, and you can say something without saying anything. And I don't want to get a report that says something without saying nothing.
I'm with you, Commissioner Harris. The bottom line is we need to get some resolution to whatever the problem is and say to the public, this is how we're going to work to resolve this problem, and not just say we have the problem.
Amen.
We know that.
Yes, please. We'll get the question in the chat and then we'll move forward. Go ahead, please.
Okay, what kind of on-the-ground air quality monitoring is happening here in Brunswick? There is a distinct oil diesel smell that I have complained about, and I do not believe it is related to the local or Academy.
Stevenson, can you answer that question?
I couldn't hear it.
Can you see it in chat
Let me see.
from Abby Sterling? The questions and answers. I'll read it again.
Okay,
What kind of on-the-ground air quality monitoring is happening here in Brunswick? There is a distinct oil diesel smell that I have complained about, and I do not believe it is related to either Canova or Academy Creek.
I believe the question was in regards to what kind of on-the-ground monitoring, air monitoring is going on in Brunswick. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Deanna, is that something maybe you can speak to?
Yes, ma'am, I can answer that. So we actually do monitor in Brunswick for particulate matters, ozone during the summer season, and now we're monitoring for SO2, which is during December and February, December and January. We are not doing any monitoring outside of our station, which is at the College Academy. I was
Can you
looking
tell
up
me what
that.
the SO2s or what they are?
Thank you. I was about to ask.
I'm sorry, say that one more time, please.
What are them? Are you monitoring for the SO2s? We don't know what the SO2s are or whatever.
Oh, I apologize. Of course not. Sulfur dioxides.
Okay.
I apologize. And fine particulate matter is very small pieces of particulate matter. We're talking about 2.5 microns in diameter. So you can think of 30 pieces of them can fit on a piece of human hair. So very, very small that can get trapped down in your lungs. Pollen is really too big to even register on our monitors. So we're monitoring for the very fine particulate matter that provides a health impact, as well as ozone in the summer times. And then now we're doing SO2 as part of the study that y'all requested.
Now, what's the next one?
Does the colder air cause an inversion which creates a blanket smell?
I can take that one, Beth.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't hear it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I am not a meteorologist. My understanding from speaking to some of our meteorologists in the past is that is a possibility. Especially if the smells can get trapped in that air inversion. But again, I'm not a meteorologist.
Next question. One smell is particularly that hasn't been mentioned is the burnt oil smell that seems to be very localized by problematic issue. Seems to be constantly coming from the Gulf oil site at the port on Bay Street. Has this site smell been investigated?
We have been to that location. Brett, did you go to that one or Michael? If you wanted to,
Michael's
okay.
the site, but all of the complaints that we get, we have looked into them all. I mean, I don't recall this particular, but I do know that, yes, we have had at least one staff member who's been to the site a few times. I'm not sure what the result of his investigation was, but there's some ongoing actions at that site, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, my recollection when we went onto the dock where they were storing the pieces was sort of a, you know, salty, briny smell, maybe a little bit of diesel mixed in, not the sort of rancid, strong odor that, you know, we've had described to us in the emails. But it's hard to kind of capture what is, you know, we're getting lots of different descriptions. So some people describe cabbagey, you know, paper mill type odors. And then we've had some of our own staff actually experience some pretty strong type odors, you know, in their own homes and when they're out and about back. That was probably back in February, January timeframe.
Let me ask this question. Of all the investigations that have been done, what actions have been taken to resolve or remediate any of these problems?
I mean, we're still in the investigative state, you know, going to doing inspections and things of that nature. It's difficult to, you know, until we can find what the source is, it's difficult to say, you know, what exactly they can do to, or can be done to, you know, to mitigate it. I know that Academy Creek is working on enclosing their headworks to help control odors there. They're not finished yet. You know, so it's difficult for people to identify, you know, to identify a solution when you can't really identify a single source.
I think on the next question, I think comments dropped off because there has been no action. I really want to know if these smells are helpful with the patients. It makes me cough and feel sick. I will not purchase a home near home or live in Brunswick long term because of these issues.
Is that it, Naomi?
I have three more.
Okay.
Next question, I don't think it affects only a small portion of the population. I think there's a small part of the population who has the time and capacity to file complaints, especially since it hasn't been resulted in action. Next question, when we notice the smell, is EPD available to come out on site with us to experience it?
I think one of the questions I'm reading here said, ask if there were any health implications. I mean, I would encourage anybody that's experiencing health effects to, you know, consult their physician and heed their medical advice. I'm sorry, I'm not able to, I'm having a hard time hearing, so it looks like the questions are coming in, but I seem to be somewhat delayed, so.
And what about the last question? Then we'll answer.
Last question, if you go to a location where the odor is bad, do you have a portable monitor to analyze the odor?
No, we don't have I think the question was, do we have a portable monitoring equipment? And we do not in the district office.
One more question there. Are the smokestacks and saline ponds monitored for odor contaminants?
Would someone from the compliance group like to answer that?
This is Karen Hayes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm the chief of the air protection branch. I don't see anybody from our compliance program on at this time. But I will say the focus of our air quality permits and inspections is on ensuring they're complying with the limits in their permits. It's not focused on odors per se. So even the reality is somebody can be in full compliance with their air quality permit and still there could be odors. So are they monitored? Yes. And I just all want to step back to, I know that you clearly want something done, and we fully understand that here at EPD. But some of our challenges are that, you know, we don't want to identify incorrectly the source of the odor. We want to be certain, we want to be right. I think that's very important. And another is, you know, why we're continuing this investigation while the coastal district is working very hard to do their investigation. You know, they are also, you know, have the benefit of that enhanced oversight, certainly the enhanced scrutiny, the enhanced, what would I say? You know, they understand, the regulated community understands that people are very concerned about the odor. So the facilities are looking at themselves at the same time.
I think, Karen, thank you for that comment. I think you said a mouthful when you said a person can meet the minimum requirements and there still be an odor. And so that per se is a problem, is that as long as they're meeting the requirements, but still causing emissions into dangerous emissions or emissions that's causing problems into the environment, but yet they're still meeting their legal requirements. And then I understand the position of not wanting to specifically say a company or entity's name or identify that entity without having the legalities crossed, the T's crossed and the I's dotted. So we fully understand that you don't want to put your organization into a liable situation. And we are happy that you all understand that this is a problem that the citizens are not going to let go of, and definitely the elected officials here are not going to let go of. And we do understand where you all are, but we need a resolution.
So we understand that. We understand that very clearly.
I don't know the protocol here, if I'm allowed to speak. I will if I can. This is Sharon
Yeah.
Ale. Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Hayes.
Okay, this is Sharon Ale, Treasurer of Glen Environmental Coalition. We're all kind of dancing around this issue, and me as a member of an environmental organization and also a private citizen who lives in Glen County, we dance around the issue. We have data that pinpoints these problems to Georgia Pacific. We have sat down with them and we have actually told them that we have the data. They know that we know. And so the question becomes, what do you do as local officials to bring them to the table? And what are you going to ask of them? You need to ask of them. You need to say, we need you to be a good neighbor. We need you to look out for the people in the town where you do business. You employ a lot of local residents, and that's great, but those residents also suffer, and everyone suffers. How can you have local development? How can you expect to develop downtown Brunswick into what it could potentially be if you have industry who is not willing to come to the table and talk about what they're going to do to make it better? Right, we can sit here and talk about data all the time, but you have to be able to confront them. You have to bring them to the table. And as local officials, it's going to be up to you to do that. So I'm just making that point.
Thank you. Anybody else is on board would like to make a comment?
One more question, they would like answers from Ashley Worley. When we notice a smell, is EPD available to come out on site with us to experience it?
Ms. Stevenson, did you hear the question?
I think so. If it's, during, if they'll call our office. I mean, that might be work faster than email or email us. We'll send someone out. That's not an issue.
We need that information. Get posted in chat right now, that information.
Yeah. The issue, a lot of the complaints come in, we get them early in the morning. They happened, in the middle of the night. We've tried doing routes in the middle of the night and that didn't really pan out very well.
What is that contact number?
912-264-7284, and that's our main office.
Can you type that in the chat section, the email address and the phone number, please? Thank you.
Okay, while you're typing, Ms. Stevenson, I want to thank you. Well, first of all, Commissioner, do you have any other questions or comments?
No, we do appreciate you all coming and providing the information. We want to keep on moving and acting on this. We don't want this to drop.
The only other comment I would have is if we could please find out from Joint Water Sewer what the time frame is on the completion of the repairs or the upgrades they're making at Academy Creek on the head tanks or whatever they're called.
I talked to them today about that, and they've got a little delay, I guess, in some of the parts that are needed. So they were saying, I think, end of January, but I don't think they really expect that to happen based on how it is getting certain parts that they need the screening.
Joint Water and Sewer will be here at the next meeting for an update.
Sure.
Thank you.
Also, someone said that they have identified Georgia Pacific as one of the, I guess, the problems, or could they facilitate a meeting between the city of Brunswick and Georgia Pacific so that we can get those questions answered that were proposed earlier?
That was Glen Environmental.
Yes, we would love to do that. We would love to bring the city of Brunswick to the table with Georgia Pacific. The thing you have to realize about all these different complaints is that they're described differently because Georgia Pacific releases different types of odors at different times. Everybody knows what poop smells like. That's Academy Creek, okay? The other odors that are coming from Georgia Pacific, they will vary. Yes, they will vary. Sometimes people describe it as just plain putrid, which it can be absolutely putrid. Other times it smells like, kind of a woodsy smell. Okay, but yes, let's bring them to the table. Let's talk about it. Because like I said, we've already talked to them. We've already been at the table with them.
Thank you. Does anyone here in the audience like to speak? Step forward and state your name and go ahead and speak. You got a couple minutes to speak.
This is Rachel Thompson, Executive Director of Glen Environmental Coalition. I was just going to answer Commissioner Williams' question. We did actually invite Georgia Pacific to participate in this work session today, but due to scheduling conflicts, they were not able to be here, but they did say that they would be interested in having something at a later date. So we're happy to help facilitate that in a similar fashion. And that's all. I want to make sure I have time for Deanna. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Just state your name and let us know who you are. You have a couple minutes.
Lori Lone. I just want to address that there is the elephant in the room of Georgia Pacific. I've put in many of my complaints. It's always when the wind is blowing northwest, which is coming right over my house from them. And I think we need to stop dancing around that company. And if the compliance, if they're following compliance, well, obviously the compliance isn't strong enough, isn't protecting us. So that needs to be addressed. But this has been going on for too long, and we've got to, I'd like this lady here, I didn't catch her name. but she seems to be on the right track. So please work with this woman. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Anyone else? Not. Ms. Stevenson, I'd like to thank you for coming and giving us an update. I know it seemed like we was beating up on you, but this community deserves some answers, and they have been asking us for the longest now for some answers to those questions, especially about our air quality, and quite naturally their quality of life, basically in that square block that you kind of outlined where these complaints are coming from. But anyhow, we will move forward and we will keep in contact with you and also have you come back again, especially when you complete that investigation and that report is due. And meanwhile, we will also get in contact with Georgia Pacific to talk with them about some of the issues that we that they may be contributing to this smell. Again, thank you. Commissioners, any other questions before I close this out?
Still on the speaker.
Who?
She's the person that's on the agenda. As the program manager for the Ambient air monitor.
Ms. Deanna Oster, are you on?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yes, sir. I wanted to tell you about the monitoring we're doing for
Okay.
the sulfur dioxide study. We have a station at Risley, and I hope I'm saying that right, Early College Academy on Albany Street. And we established that station in 1987. We actually established it for sulfur dioxide back then, and we ran that until 2012. And at that time, the levels were significantly below the EPA standard. So we stopped monitoring. Like I told you before, we do monitor for a few things at that Brunswick station. The sulfur dioxides will monitor for through the end of January and see if when any of these odor complaints come in, we can look at the levels and see if there's any correlation in the, because one of the things that was asked was, do we have any portable monitoring equipment for odors? The air quality monitoring that we do is not for odors. It's for health effects, for the particulate matter, for the ozone, for the sulfur dioxide. But if odors are noticed at that time, we can look at the levels. And actually, you can look at the levels as well. I'm going to share my screen if that's all right.
That'd be fine.
And show you the website we've got. So the website I've pulled up is airgeorgia.org. It is the ambient monitoring air quality website where you can see current conditions across the state. And these colors right here are reflective of the air quality index. And that's what EPA is set to kind of give you an idea of how good your air quality is. Green is good. Moderate, which is what most of the state is right now, is encroaching up to the standard, but basically the level of 100. So anything yellow or below is at an AQ of 100, and the 100 is set at EPA's standard for a particular pollutant. And the way it works is like at Brunswick, where we're monitoring multiple things, the highest concentration we monitor, that will set the AQI. So you can actually go to our website at any time, hover over this number at Brunswick. So right now the air quality index in Brunswick is 73. And you can hover over that and get exactly what the pollutant concentrations are being monitored at any time. Again, this can be about an hour behind because we only pull this data once an hour, but this is straight off the instruments. It has not been, you're seeing it when I'm seeing it, basically. It's not been quality assured, but so it's raw data. But anybody who's concerned can go to this concentration page right here, and you can see the 24-hour average of particulate matter. The state's very high on particulate matter today. And that if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you can actually see the SO2 concentration every hour. Now, we're measuring about less than 1 part per billion today. So that's for, it's a very small amount. If you think about it in terms of EPA standard is 75 parts per billion. So we are very, very low compared to the health standard. And if you want to see what happened on a particular day, if you notice the odor happened last week, you can actually go up here and choose a particular day. And oops, I'm sorry, I loaded it for last month. That won't do us any good, will it? And choose yesterday and load it and see what was going on yesterday. Now, and again, yesterday it only went up to 1.5 ppb, parts per billion. The SO2 monitor went live November 19th, so we won't have any data before that. And the particulate matter monitor was installed at the middle of October. So but the particulate matter monitor, we're going to leave in Brunswick from now on so that year round, you have an indication.
We lost you. We can't. Somebody text her and tell her we lost her. Excuse me? Yes, she is.
She's frozen.
Well, somebody, Naomi text her and tell her we're. Well, she's texting in the chat that we can't hear her.
Okay.
Well, she's back. Ms. Oster, I'm sorry we couldn't hear you toward the last end of your presentation. Maybe we lost you entirely, I don't know. Your presentation was very interesting. It seems like we're gonna have to move on. And City Manager, will you schedule her to come back again to give us that small briefing about that? Okay. All right. We're gonna close out our work session for this evening, realizing that there were a number of things that we was soliciting to find out, and there are some things that necessitate us doing other things, such as having a meeting, and also having another update with Ms. Oster on the ambient air monitoring program with DNR. So with that, I'm gonna close our work session, and we will come back at 6:05 for our opening of our city council meeting. I declare this meeting closed. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the order of the city council meeting dated December the 1st. Wow, we're in December already. We will rise for, well, excuse me. First of all, this is a hybrid meeting. As you can see, Commissioner Williams and Commissioner Martin are with me here in Old City Hall, and our Mayor Pro Tem, Felicia Harris, and Commissioner Johnny Cason are with us virtually. So we will rise all here in the courtroom, in the City Hall. We'll rise for our invocation, led by Commissioner Williams, followed by our Pledge of Allegiance, led by Commissioner Julie Martin. Please rise.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we come now and we pause and we say thank you for this day. Thank you for this beautiful city in which we live. And Father, we thank you for this governing body. We ask now that you would touch our hearts and our minds as we prepare to do the business of this city, that we would do it to the very best of our abilities, and that the outcome will be that of your will. Father, we love you and we say thank you for all things. Thank you for everyone that's here and for everyone that's on by Zoom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome everybody who have joined us here down at Old City Hall, and the ones also who have joined us via Zoom virtually. Before we get started tonight, there are a number of additions that we need to add to our agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to offer that we make a motion to add the following items under the city attorney's items. There are 4 different items that would be taken, I guess, separately, but sort of all together. One being consider approval of resolution 2021-19 to accept the material terms of the distributor and Janssen settlements pursuant to the Georgia Memorandum of Understanding and consistent with the terms of the July 21st, 2021 National Opioid Settlement Agreements. Number 2 would be authorize the city attorney to execute the memorandum of understanding concerning national distributor and Johnson opioid settlements. Number 3 would be to authorize the city attorney to execute the Janssen settlement participation form. And number 4, to authorize the city attorney to execute the subdivision distributor participation form. We hope he knows all of that.
Second.
You did all of them?
Yes.
Oh,
You go ahead and do all of them,
Okay.
all 4.
and then secondly, under items to consider for approval, I make a motion that we add to consider approval of increase in employee life insurance, and Regina McDuffie will be making that presentation.
Second.
It's a motion and a second to add these items to our agenda. Are there any further discussion or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I can't hear my Mayor Pro Tem or my Commissioner.
Can y'all hear me? I said aye.
Okay, I got it, right, okay. All right, that motion, motion carries unanimously. Okay, what we would do, we'll have item number 12, 12-1-2-3-4 on the city attorney item. And then we'll have item number 13 under for consider approval of the increase in employee life insurance. Ms. McDuffie will present that for item number 13. That's what we will do. Okay, all right. Again, thank you all for coming this evening. We are going to, the first item on our agenda is proclamation presentation to Sean McVeigh for his service to City of Brunswick as a non-public member of Coastal Regional Commission. Mr. McVeigh, please join me down. It's a great pleasure to be down here to do this for you. I'm really so happy that you chose to serve with us, serve for us at the Coastal Regional Commission. It really meant a lot coming from you because you've been there before. You've been one of our representatives, state representatives as well. So you know some of the things that affect this coastal region. So we were very happy the fact that you decided to accept that position for us to represent us here in the city of Brunswick. So this is a proclamation that says from the mayor and city council of Brunswick, Georgia, we do hereby issue this proclamation. It says, whereas Sean McVeigh has served on the Coastal Regional Commission as a non-public member on behalf of the city of Brunswick since September 2010. And whereas Mr. Sean McVeigh has been a part of initiative to develop, promote, and provide comprehensive services that make Brunswick a better place to live, to work, and to play. And whereas Sean McVeigh committed use of his knowledge, his skill, and his expertise, these things have not gone unnoticed. We have really benefited from those. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Cornell Harvey, as mayor of the city of Brunswick, I got one more, y'all. Along with my fellow commissioners, Commissioner Julie Martin, Commissioner Johnny Cason, Commissioner Vincent Williams, and our Mayor Pro Tem, Felicia Harris, we do hereby offer our profound thanks to Mr. Shaw McVeigh for his years of service and his contribution to the Coastal Regional Commission and to the city of Brunswick. It's signed by me, Cornell Harvey, attested by Naomi Atkins, our city clerk. Sir, thank you for your service and what you have done for this city. We appreciate it so very much. You're welcome. I'll give you 2 minutes if you like.
It's been an honor and a privilege to serve the community in many capacities. I was just talking with others about on the commission, even the House and even the school board at one time. But this is really special, representing the city in challenging times and having the opportunity to serve the people of Brunswick. And even though I was a county commissioner and a chairman, I still had a fond place in my heart for the city, and I hope that I defended you well from that vantage point as well. And I'm proud of the progress that's being made. I really am. I share in the excitement, and I know some are here tonight, and I'm glad that it's taking place. It couldn't happen at a better place, my home and my lifetime home. So thank y'all for letting me serve, and I appreciate it. You might not even kick me off, but whatever comes in the future, that's fine. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Well, it's great when we see people who are willing to serve and help us build this city up. We have built a better Brunswick because we have people who are willing to serve. I thank you, Mr. Shaw McVeigh. Thank you for your willingness to serve and your dedication to serve that you have, what you have done. Next on our agenda is an announcement. I had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Randolph Russell concerning something that is very important in our community. And he asked me, would I announce this to the city of Brunswick? And I said, of course I would. And it's really about giving. I know yesterday was Giving Tuesday, and everybody I think got on board, and they gave quite a bit all around the United States there was. But Mr. Russell gave this to me, and I thought it's befitting that I read it out, and also allow Bishop Corey Pittman to say a couple of words when I finish. This is an announcement. It says the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints in Brunswick. It started off the holiday season as part of the Light the World with Love. It's a holiday event by asking everyone to fast on Sunday, December the 5th, 2021, and donate the money saved from the fasting to help those in need. What a great thing to do. And in support of Light the World with Love event, I encourage all the city of Brunswick residents to support the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints with this holiday event by donating the money that's saved during that fasting period on December 5th to help others in need. Now, it didn't say that you have to give it to them. It said donate it to someone, help someone else in need. This community has been inundated by a lot of things lately. And we are so loving and so thankful for a lot of things and how we have come through some things. And what befitting way to help someone else. So I encourage City of Brunswick to really get involved with this holiday. Now, Bishop Corey Pittman, sir, would you like to say a couple words, please? I'm sorry we couldn't get our video on the show, but you have the floor.
Totally fine. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you to all those who are in attendance. I'm Bishop Corey Pittman. I represent the local ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's our opportunity and pleasure, and it was our request to see if the city of Brunswick and all throughout the world who could join us will join with us this Sunday in a special fast. As we think of the Savior, as we think of the many blessings that we have, there are many that are without and many that could use more. And we have the ability to do that. We have the ability to provide that. The church works hard and diligently, as does this commission and our mayor, to provide for those in need, to help promote brotherly kindness and love. And that's what this message is all about. It's Light the World with Love. And you can find any information you like about it at lighttheworld.com or .org, I'm sorry. And what it does is it outlines a calendar for us this month, which the 5th or Sunday is the day that we'll be fasting. But it gives you ideas on how you can serve, help, and love your brother throughout the month as we think of the Savior. The goal being that we don't just let that one moment in Bethlehem be the only part of Christmas, but that we keep Christmas moving throughout our lives, throughout the year, and throughout all eternity, if possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your work. It's a great community to be in. Brunswick is really, really a great community. It is. Commissioners, before I move forward, I would like to bring item 10 up to do next instead, so we can consider this if we need to take more time. So if you don't mind, I'd like to next do with item number 10. Is that okay with everybody?
So move.
Okay, thank you. All right, as we move right along, this is item to consider for, this is one item to consider for approval. This is consider approval of enterprise zone incentive in the Central Business District Enterprise Zone for 201 Gloucester Street. Mr. Matthew Hill, our DDA Director, will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This was brought up at the first meeting in November, and there was a question at the time about how a potential new value is calculated. We went back and have used the International Code Council's calculation, which is what the building department uses for building permits. So on page 2 is a new calculated value based on that. And Ms. McDuffie has worked on a new suggested abatement process in there that I'm sure she'll talk about. But also, I want to point out that the value at start has been added. So this was the value at the start of the project, not necessarily the value today, but the value before the construction started, what the building was valued at.
When you say page 2, what are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, page 2 of the staff report.
The
What's it
application?
like?
The application?
We don't have that.
We're
Oh,
waiting.
yeah.
Probably gotta go to it. Yeah, it's
Okay, yeah.
way back, way down. What page is it in our packet?
I don't know, it's the one that has, it's the page,
Abatement all figured out.
page 88.
Page 88.
Okay, got ways to go.
Okay. Ms. McDuffie, did you want to say anything about the new?
Well, the information that basically, sorry, thank you, outlines the abatement and what's being recommended. The total fees for the project would be 56,867, and that was being recommended to be waived. After looking at the value, new value, it's at $3.1 million, assessed value of $1.2 million, and an estimated city tax of $16,545 per year. We are recommending a 5-year abatement versus a 10-year. When we first presented this, the total amount of the abatement would have been around $117,000. This abatement schedule is a little bit higher, even though it's for 5 years, because of that change in the valuation. So the total impact to the city for this particular abatement would be around $140,000 over that 5-year period, including those fees and taxes.
And the reason why not the 10-year?
Well, basically, it's the city's discretion in terms of how we abate the taxes.
Sure.
And of course, we could do a 10-year abatement. I would not recommend the 10-year for the 100%, but basically, we were looking at an amount to, I guess, discount for this project, and $150,000 we thought was effective.
Okay.
How are, this may be a topic of another time, but the building permitting fees, how are those calculated?
Those are calculated by the building department. So when the application is first brought forth, the building permit technician does a calculation of an estimate of what the fees would be.
Is that more or less based on staff time? Is that what, I'm just trying to figure out what the basis for how here comes
Mr. Hunter. There it is.
So we utilize the ICC's standard schedule of values that they update twice a year. And depending on the type use of the building and type of construction of the building, they've got a square foot national average that we then take that dollar amount per square foot and multiply it by the square footage of the particular project that's being permitted, and that calculates our fee. That calculates the value. Then from the value, we have a formula that I believe it's $8 per $1,000 of project value that we then create the fee based on.
Okay.
So what's the estimate then? I mean, I know you don't have,
So our, based on that calculation is where we got the $3.1 million valuation of the building, which led to the $55,000 permit fee.
Okay. So we're trying to make the taxes 140 plus the.
No, that encompasses the $140,000 estimate, encompasses the $56,000 upfront fee.
Okay.
Permitting fees.
All right.
And all those other things.
Anything else?
Okay. There was a question last time about how the abatement runs in relation to the property or the owner, and Mr. Corey had done some investigation into that.
Okay.
It would run with the applicant. So the applicant, if the applicant receives the 10-year abatement, the 10 years would run with the applicant. If the project was sold for whatever reason during that abatement, then the new purchaser would not join the benefit of that abatement. It would end with the applicant's sale of the property.
Right. And I know that in prior applicants applying for the enterprise zone, of course, this is the largest project that we've had, but we have tiered over that 10-year time period or an 8-year time period or something different. Is there an advantage or disadvantage to the developer as to whether or not they're abated at a higher end at the front end of the project or the back end, or does it?
The way the law reads is that you would be afforded discretion to the city commission, but you would be afforded a 100% abatement for the first 5 years.
Right.
And then it would scale down from there, I believe, starting with 80, 60, 60, 40, 20. So that's the maximum allowed by law.
But you're right, in previous applications, there has been a wide variety of abatement schedules. Most of them do the larger percentage at the beginning and taper off after 5 years, or some of them were didn't have 100% at all, were some percentage in there. That's been up to the commission's will and pleasure.
Well, thank you. Any other questions or comments, commissioners, about this? I just want to say, really, I'm really happy that they are trying to infuse $3 million into our downtown area, and with the premise of infusing even more. That's really something. I know that I'm hoping the fact that as we abate these taxes, that the residual effect from the infusion to other developers, other people coming around there will make it even better. We get the sales tax from the restaurants and so forth like that, that we will, that will show a steady increase that will continue to make it, that will help offset as we do this abatement.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to say on behalf of the Finance Committee that we, when we looked at this, we looked at doing the 10-year abatement on this particular project. I would think that that's still the gist of the Finance Department and Finance Committee for this particular project.
Well, in the 10 years, did you scale it down from
it scales
60 down to 20?
Yeah, it scales.
Okay.
Just as we did in the past.
So what was that total out?
If it were 10, what is the question?
We did 10 years and then we go down from.
Well, 5 years.
5 years, 100%, and then
80, 60.
80, 60.
We don't, okay, I think we don't have to do 5 years of 100%.
Right.
But if we did, we could change those numbers. I guess what I would ask the commission is, what is the amount that you would approve for abatement? And then work the schedule to that amount. Because at this point, we can scale it however we want in terms of those percentages in the years following. If we did a regular abatement, we could probably abate up to 120,000 plus the 56,000, if that's what you all want to do.
What will we be predicating that upon? That's because we've already reviewed this and looked at it, and this is what we've determined in the Finance Committee.
Yes.
So we weren't going back through this again. We had already approved this and addressed this in our last meeting. The only thing we were supposed to be addressing tonight is the abatement following the property or following the ownership.
Yeah, do we have an answer to that question?
Yes.
Yes.
Follows the owner.
Okay.
And we also, just shored up that new value, because when we first presented this schedule, it was based on a $1.5 million. And that's when we questioned, how is that valuation determined? And is that valuation correct based on what we're looking at in terms of the abated taxes?
Right.
Okay. All right.
So the matter that we were supposed to be dealing with was the value and the abatement following what? And those questions have been answered.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I believe the
Developer is
developer's
present.
here.
Yes.
Anything you want to say?
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, my name is Jim Bishop. I represent Brad Piazza, who is here, And in the traditional sense, I guess he might be considered a developer, but I think he's an investor, in my view, investing in our community, investing in downtown in a very significant way. And I think that the only thing we're doing is trying to participate with whatever the city's offerings have been in order to encourage investors to spend their large sums of money for the redevelopment of downtown, which pleases me a lot. I will tell you that I used to come and go a lot from downtown, but I don't much anymore because my office is moved to St. Simon's. But as I drove down tonight through town, it's lighted up, lit up for Christmas, and it is just drop dead beautiful. And that's what Brad Piazza and his family wishes to do here, to continue to increase the investment in downtown Brunswick for the benefit of our whole community. I think it is wonderful. It's fantastic. And to do whatever is you all, because I'm not there, you all have run for office, you got a franchise. But I think it makes sense for all of us to encourage people like Brad Piazza and his family to do whatever they can do to invest in our community. And that's, y'all do it every day, every minute of every day. And we very much appreciate that. And it sounds to me like we are heading in that direction tonight. We've met extensively with your city attorney, who, by the way, does a great job for y'all, and others. You've seen the presentation. We've made sure that everybody saw what they intend to do. And I just think it's exceptional. By the way, while I have the floor here for just a minute, Sean McVeigh is an old friend of mine, and we've been around for a long time. You're talking about somebody that has given to this community time and time again. He has done it about as good as anybody has ever done
Yes,
it.
sir. Yes,
I
sir.
admire him a lot for that. And thank you all for recognizing his contributions to our community as well.
Yes,
But
sir.
anyway, Mr. Piazza is here. He's the investor. And if you have any questions that you'd like to ask from him, we're certainly willing to try to answer them. But I think, Brown, are we heading in the right direction to what we talked about?
Well, I think what my conversation with Mr. Bishop was regarding, and Mr. Piazza, was regarding the 10-year abatement. I think that they were
Yes.
looking to see a 10-year abatement.
For sure.
Right. Okay. We really thank you all for investing in our city. We've set up the enterprise zone specifically for that reason, to attract people to come and invest in our city. We appreciate the fact that you are one of those who's doing it for us as well. So is there anything you'd like to say?
Other than the intention for this project, again, going back to this 10-year aspect, this is the first opportunity zone, historic tax credit, enterprise zone, and hoping to be a tax allocation district project in the city. And we wanted to have this project be a poster for all of the good things that our community stands for, and it's pro-business and pro-development, and really being able to have a good step forward for our community and for the region. And that's what our heart is set on, and we plan and intend to do projects like this and in larger scale if the city permits. So we remain steadfast and want to be an asset for our community however we can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Bishop. Appreciate it very much.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Mr. Piazza, for sharing those thoughts with us about your intentions about what you intend to do here, invest in the city of Brunswick and our downtown area. I think the city of Brunswick priorities were to stabilize our downtown, get it started, jump started, and you one of the ones who helping us do that. And then we will do something in our inner city and move on like that to make sure our city is whole. So I thank you for that. Mr. Hill, anything else you'd like to bring forth? No. Okay. City Attorney, anything? All right, commissioners, any questions or comments you have?
Thank you so much, Mr. Bishop and Mr. Piazza. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
This is exactly where we wanted to be
Yes.
way back when. So yes, the enterprise zone was established, I think in 2014 is when we first really started
And no one came other than
pushing it.
right now, we're here now.
Yeah, and
So-
we as a commission set the stage during the recession for projects such as this coming out. So thank you for investing in Brunswick.
And thank you to the Finance Committee for going through the things with this, going through the details with this as well. Thank you so much for what you do. I know we never give you credit for the things you do, but is it so valuable what you do for the city of Brunswick?
Well, we couldn't do it without the city manager, without Matthew and all of the assistants of the staff, without John, Hunter and all of them. So as a team, we make it happen.
Okay, all right, then, so now, I think what we were supposed to, well, I don't have a motion yet, but considering our last meeting, it was about the 10-year abatement. So do I have a motion for that?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the enterprise zone incentive for the Central Business District Enterprise Zone for 201 Gloucester Street with the 10-year abatement.
I would suggest that it be revised to be the 10-year abatement as provided by the enterprise zone law.
What you said.
It has an internal structure in it.
As our city attorney said.
Okay, let me ask this before we get a second. Did we not already vote on this and approve it already?
No,
At the
ma'am.
last meeting? We
No,
did.
there was a vote to defer it to
deferred.
this meeting.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay, I've been motion and second for us to consider approval of the enterprise zone incentive for Central Business District Enterprise for 201 Gloucester Street with the 10-year abatement as tenured and will be sent to us by our city attorney, or whatever he said.
Yeah, by the law.
Okay. So, are there any further questions or comments?
That includes the permitting fee abatement as well, yeah.
Okay. Madam Clerk, call the roll for me, please.
For clarification, who made the second on that motion?
Commissioner Martin.
Commissioner Kason, how do you vote? Commissioner Martin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Harris, how do you vote?
Yes.
Commissioner Kason, how do you vote?
Is he on?
You're muted.
Yeah.
Here it goes.
Mayor Harvey, how do you vote?
Yes. All right. Okay, seems that yes have it. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Piazza. Thank you, Mr. Bishop. And continue to do things like this in our community. We welcome things like this in our community. And Merry Christmas. You're giving us a Merry Christmas. All right, you're giving us one.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Shaw.
Thank you, Naomi.
Okay, as you clear out the hall here. Okay, item number 2, public hearings, land use. Consider approval of conditional use petition number 2021-04 from Trayvon Hawkins, petitioning for a conditional use for 3329 Norwich Street. Location will be used for a motor vehicle repair with no outdoor storage of junk vehicles. Mr. Hunter is presenting.
Thank you, Mayor. Give me 1 second. There we go. Good. So Trayvon Hawkins has petitioned for conditional use for 3329 Norwich Street. Location will be used for motor vehicle repairs and no outdoor storage of junk vehicles. The existing parcel is 0.29 acres with a building located on the parcel with limited parking. The location was purpose-built and used in the past as a tire shop. It's shown outlined in blue on the map. The subject parcel is zoned general commercial. Parcels across Hardy Lane, which is to the west, are zoned R6 residential, with the other adjacent parcels zoned GC general commercial. As I mentioned, the property previously was used as a tire shop and has been vacant for several years. The new proposed use would be vehicle repair station, providing tire changes, AC servicing, brake servicing, engine repairs, and transmission repair. In the general commercial zoning district, under section 23-25-4, conditional use for garages for repair and servicing of motor vehicles is allowed. The conditional use process allows the city commission to place conditions on a parcel to make certain that the proposed uses are compatible with the surrounding area. Based on previous conditional uses and this location, the staff recommended that there be no open storage of wrecked vehicles, dismantled parts, or supplies visible beyond the premises, and that no outdoor storage of wrecked vehicles, dismantled parts, or supplies be allowed on the premises. So not only can you not see them, but they wouldn't be stored there as well. Staff notes that the permit authorizing a conditional use will only be valid for that particular conditional use and will expire if the conditional use or operations cease for more than 6 months. Staff also added a third recommendation of a screen or a buffer must remain on the west side of the property where it runs along Hardy Street Lane, such that the operations are not visible from the lane to minimize the impact on the adjacent residential properties. The Planning and Appeals Commission held a public hearing for this application on November 10th. Discussion centered upon continuing to screen the property from the residential properties across Hardy Street Lane. The applicant had added a green windscreen to fencing that was around the property. And there was a discussion about whether or not they should require that or ask for it to be removed. They left that up to the applicant's will. And at the public hearing, there were no speakers for or against the application. The Planning and Appeals Commission recommended approving the staff recommended conditions and adding a 5-year sunset provision to the conditional use. So there would be a total of 4 conditions placed at the recommendation of the Planning and Appeals Commission. The no open storage of wrecked vehicles visible beyond the premise, the no outdoor storage on the premises of wrecked vehicles, dismantled parts or supplies, the screen or buffer along Hardy Street Lane, and the 5-year sunset of the conditional use. That concludes the staff report. Happy to answer any questions if you have them. The applicant is not here tonight. So I will have to stand in and answer any possible questions.
Okay, questions for Mr. Hunter?
I have one. I drove by the site and the fencing is fully screened, but there are a lot of vehicles.
A lot of vehicles. And he started operation before.
Yeah, October 1st or something, I think was when his lease was.
Yeah. So once it came to our attention that there was activity going on, we approached him, made him aware of the need for the conditional use, and he complied by submitting an application. Obviously, with repair facilities, as we all know, cars are cars.
Especially all the types of repairs he's doing. So when you say no wrecked vehicles can be parked on site, does that have anything to do with whether they're operable or non-operable?
It's a combination of if they are operable or if they are there for short-term repair. The intent is not to allow junk vehicles, which are inoperable, unregistered parts cars, basically. So they purchase vehicles, they store them on the site, they grab an alternator off of it and use it, and grab a door off of it and try to keep it from being a junkyard. If they are registered and in process of repair, then he is allowed the vehicle storage there.
Okay.
So how many
I was gonna say, how's that monitored?
Yeah.
That's the difficult part, as y'all know.
Very fuzzy. Well, I mean, I think the screening on the fence looks better than fence with cars everywhere. I mean,
Right, and in past, we have gone either way on that. There have been some applicants who wanted more visibility to attract more customers. There are some who have asked to have the windscreen. This particular applicant said he wanted it honestly because he had enough business already via word of mouth and his existing business that was located elsewhere, that he didn't want people just wandering in on a regular basis looking for oil changes or things like that. So the planning commission then recommended, if you want the green screening up, then you keep it.
because he's also towing.
He does have a towing operation, and the intent is not for it to be storage for his towing operation. That would be a separate conditional use, as we saw earlier this year with Mr. Atkinson, 3 or 4 blocks over.
So it's 5-year sunset, mean in 5 years you have to come back and ask for another additional use?
Yes, sir.
Is he aware of that?
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. How do Bruce Kennedy does it? I never see any cars at the end of the day when he closed.
He has a yard adjacent to the side that he has screened similarly. So he just happens to keep the area in front of his building open and accessible differently. But he does have a yard that is screened adjacent to it.
Yeah, so we never see that. I mean, that's
right, because of the screening typically.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is what this guy's gonna do?
Well, he's got the screening now.
He's got screening now, and he has screened the entire property.
I think it should be kept that way.
But other cars in it. See, that's my hesitance. In this, I mean, I don't have a problem with the business or what have you, but I do have a problem with that area becoming convoluted with all of this. When I say this, it's kind of those businesses, and it's starting to cause it to have an ill effect on the visual of that area. And we don't want it to start turning into a junkyard.
And we agree with that. It is a difficult kind of fine line to measure there, because automobile service is definitely a need within the city. How do you address that and keep it from becoming essentially becoming a junkyard?
Right.
And that is something, as we come back after the first of the year with our revisions to the zoning ordinances, I think you'll see a change in that process, specifically for vehicle repair shops.
I think too, we need to beef up, or however we need to do it, code enforcement to the point where they physically go and check these places at some periodic times, just like
we do.
Yeah, just like the police department does things for underage sales. Let's go out, let's find out, because there are a lot of these, and we've permitted several coming north or coming south on Norris Street. There's some things that we've already permitted that's starting to look like junkyards.
Yeah,
and I'm very concerned about that.
And that's something that code enforcement has been, they in particular checked this one, because in particularly the pop-up tow yard storage is something that is problematic, and has become a problem that has bled into side streets, and in particular in alleys where there are vacant lots, where someone will all of a sudden, code enforcement will drive by and there'll be 15 cars stacked in on a lot in an alley, because there are very few storage yards available locally. That's something that I think you'll see addressed much more firmly in the upcoming.
John, you would document your visits with pictures?
Yes, they do.
Good, good. That's a good idea.
Mr. Hunter, did Mr. Hawkins attend?
He did attend the planning.
zoning?
Yes, he did.
He did? And tonight he just did not, huh?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Hunter?
Yeah, it's not a question, it's a statement. Just
Okay.
piggybacking on what Commissioner Williams said. We want to make sure with the cleanliness of that area. Because I mean, riding through there often, I think we even need to address with Dollar General in that area.
Yeah.
And cleanliness of their property, and how they're keeping their property up. So it's not just them, but that area needs some attending to, because remember, we are making an investment in that area with the North Common Funds. And so when we have more potential developers coming into that area, it needs to be as such. And so we need to be attentive to not deterring these businesses, but the expectations that we have of these businesses, all of the businesses.
Any more comments? Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners and audience, this is a public hearing. And I will open it up that anyone here who would like to speak for or against the granting of this conditional use petition, can please step forward, state your name and your address, and you have a couple of minutes to speak.
Good evening. My name is Karen Polite. My residence is 1909 Fifth Street, excuse me. And this is my course of corridor. I come through this area every day. And I would love to see it occupied, but we want to definitely, even as Mr. Hunter said, he's already occupying the property and already doing business. I would love to see the screen maintained. He has a sign above, it's probably about 20 feet tall, that could advertise that his business is there. But he definitely already, I can see that there needs to be a little bit more regulation. We want to see small neighborhood businesses. We need more auto mechanics like Mr. Kennedy. And actually, Mr. Kennedy's business is not screened. He just makes sure that the cars are gone within 24 to 48 hours. We need more like him. So, but we understand that this gentleman may do more extensive repairs. Mr. Kennedy does tune-ups. He does very basic oil changes, tire rotations and stuff like that. So this gentleman may do more extensive repairs, but we just want to know that he is welcome to the neighborhood. We love to see him there, but we definitely want to make sure, as Pro Tem Harris said, that we want to attract other businesses there. We want to create a healthy, clean environment of residents and businesses. So I am for him, but I definitely would love to see the screen maintained, and we would definitely love to see the vehicles maintained in an order that they can't be seen from the street. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here would like to speak for or against the granting this conditional petition? Please step forward, state your name, and you have a couple minutes to speak. Okay, no one else is stepping forward. Madam Clerk, is there anyone in the chat room who want to speak? Okay. Mr. Hunter, please step forward again. The young lady mentioned something about a sign. I didn't see anything in here about A sign.
Well, a sign is, that's a permittable piece of, for any business in there. It's actually, I said, that is a permittable item that would not be under review as part of this typically. And if I recall, it was actually an existing sign that he refaced, which refacing of an existing sign doesn't even require a permit.
Okay.
Because you say, I think it
Yeah, I
said
think it
Bill's
was old.
Tires or.
Yeah, you say Bill's Tire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, Commissioner, before I ask for a motion, are there any other questions that needs to be asked or any other comments? Especially,
I'm sorry,
ahead.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Can I say this? We want to move in the spirit of expectation. We don't want businesses or potential businesses to think of it as harassment, but to think of it as expectations. And I think that's how we need to start making sure and moving, even when applicants are coming or submitting applications. We expect them to be there with their application when it's being submitted and it's being presented. We expect them to keep those properties up in a manner that's presentable for that community or that neighborhood. And so we don't want to have them thinking that it's harassment, but it's the expectation of this administration, it's the expectation of the city that they're going to be good neighbors in these communities to help us with the upkeep and maintenance and maintaining the beautification of these communities. That's what we need to make sure that everyone that comes in to do business in the city of Brunswick understands that expectation.
Right. Okay. Any other comments, commissioners?
Yeah, I'll say that you've already got the standard there that was referenced in Bruce Kennedy, and that certainly is a hallmark. And just to say, John is right, there is a screen there at Bruce's. It's not across the front. It's in his side yard there. It is screened.
Okay.
And it is a standard that we should try to get everybody like Mayor Pro Tem says to be guided by.
Okay.
Ready for a motion?
Yes. Seeing that there was no correspondence from the surrounding area, John, either? Did you?
No.
Okay. All right.
I'll make a motion that we approve conditional use petition number 2021-04 from Trayvon Hawkins, petitioning for conditional use for 3329 Norwich Street. Location will be used for motor vehicle repairs with no outdoor storage of junk vehicles. And also pulling in the 4 recommendations from the Planning and Appeals Commission with the further modification of item 3, that the screen remain on all sides of the property.
Second.
Motion and second. The motion by Commissioner Martin, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Harris, that the approval of the conditional use petition number 2021-04 with those conditions as outlined. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposers? Hearing none, I believe the ayes have it and the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you.
Please let the individual know those conditions and also the extra condition that Commissioner Martin stated.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right, let's move right along pretty quickly here. Our next item is update redistricting task force by our city manager, Ms. McDuffie. Good evening.
I will be brief. As directed by the commission, a task force was convened to look at redistricting after the Board of Election Superintendent made a presentation back in October. We looked at the aspects of what would be favorable in keeping the correct current lines as they were. Because everybody vote collectively, we felt like the changing of the lines would be inconsequential. The south end of the South Ward usually has a higher voter turnout, even though it had a lower population listed under the wards. And we did look at the lines that were drawn by the Board of Elections seemed to be just a little bit jagged and change a little bit too much geographically and visually. There were basically comments made in terms of the favoring the redrawing, saying that it would equal out the split of population between the wards, which would make the availability of candidacy maybe equal in terms of people being able to run from each ward. And also that it would not have any impact on the polling locations or the election of candidates. The general consensus of the group was to leave the lines as is and to revisit the topic in 2 years, as the city has home rule on this issue and are not required to make any changes at this time. After then, I did ask the Board of Elections to look at some redraws, and unfortunately, I sent the wrong document to Naomi, and she did not include it in the package, and I wondered why it wasn't there, but then I realized it was not the right item. So let me try and share my screen and show you what those maps look like just briefly. And this is the current map where you see the line that's drawn. It's along L Street and it goes all the way over to 341.
Is that 4th Street?
L Street.
That's L Street. And this is the map from the BOE, which it's very convoluted in terms of where it's showing that line to be drawn and changed, although it equals out the population. What I did was ask them to change only where the line goes up from up to P Street. I think that's on Norwich. I'm trying to see if that's what it was. I need to look. But it basically, I asked them to look at 3 different scenarios. And one was to look at it going north on Altama to N, north on Altama to O, and north on Altama to P. And when they looked at that or changed it, it showed that if you go up to P Street, and I'm trying to get back to my screen share, then the population evens out to 7,600 on the north and 7,500 roughly on the south. And it would be a clean line going up Altama across to P and across to 341, but that was just to show the clean lines and equal it out. Again, the general consensus of the group was not to change the lines at this time, but it's at the discretion of the commission. Thank you.
Thank you for that update, Madam City Manager. But as you notice that map, it had a lot of areas that we need to annex into the city. It's just all over the place. And there's a lot of contiguous areas that we should have annexed into the city. And in the mayor's talking to the county about doing that. So we can kind of square off our lines as well. It would be beneficial for us and also the county, mainly because of the service delivery of our fire department and also of our police department and the areas that we would serve. So that's something to look at moving forward. But thank you for the update on that, on the changing of our boundaries, our redistricting.
That should be part of the loss negotiations is where that should be, and that's a good idea.
Yes, I think, yes. Okay, let's move right along pretty quickly. Item number 4, consider approval of November 17, 2021 work session and regular scheduled meeting minutes. It's been provided to you in your packet, and I will entertain a motion, please.
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion second for the approval of those two items. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposes? No opposes. That motion carries. Thank you. Item number 5, consider approval of financial reports as of October 31st, 2021. Ms. Mills, our finance director, will be presenting.
Okay, yes. At October 31st, we are 1/3 of the way through this current fiscal year of June 30, 2022. You will see for revenues for the month of October, net revenues over expenditures of $1 million. Year to date, $4.6 million. There is a cash balance of $5.3 million in the general fund. The lost distribution was up $79,000 for the month of October over October of last year, which is an increase of 13.72%. Year to date, we are up 9.72% over loss from the same period last year. Title ad valorem tax is not quite as good. We were down $7,500 for the month, which was a drop of 20.32%, but year to date, we are up 6.5% with total collections and up through October 31st of $136,000. On the next page, you have SPLOST 6. And, obviously we're not collecting much money right now other than just some, a few corrections that have come in through the Department of Revenue. So we have collected the vast majority of the money, but we do have a cash balance on hand of $4.4 million. Basically right now we are basically just going in and trying to finish up some projects. We have expended a total amount as of October 31st of $11.5 million. There is still a little in unallocated funds of $446,000. On the next page, you'll see SPLOST 5. There is a cash balance of $1,367,000. And at the suggestion of the city manager, I will start adding a little footnote to that that money has been approved for the purchase of a ladder truck for the fire department and will be used instead of raising taxes. On Norwich Street Commons, we've had no expenditures for the year to date. We earn a little bit of interest on that money, and we have a cash balance of $336,000. Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center, we have inflows of $140,000, outflows of $118,000, which gives us a net of $22,000. We have a cash balance of $23,000 in that account as of October 31st. But the main point I want to make about that is we have transferred from the general fund $40,000 year to date, which is only 26% of what we have budgeted. So we appear to be on schedule and won't have the problems we had last year when the funding was down based on our occupancy or participation in that program. Next page is the Sanitation Fund. Revenue year to date, $726,000. Expenditures, $452,000 year to date for an operating income of $275,000. We have cash on hand of $372,000, and there's an additional amount restricted for the landfill, T Street landfill of $194,000, which I don't think we're going to have to use that from the last couple of things I've gotten from Mr. Alberson, but we're just leaving it there for the time being until we should be sure that's closed out. Stormwater Utility Fund inflows for the year, $276,000. Operating expenditures, $240,000 for a net of $36,000. We have a cash balance in that fund as of October 31st of $388,000. Additional information that should say for the month of October instead of September, but there have been no expenses paid out year to date for animal control, traffic control, or recreation department expenses for the facilities that are managed by the county. We've not had any expenditures so far this year. And the last page is the Roosevelt Lawrence Center. You'll see total expenditures for the month of October, $11,000. Year to date, we have approximately $46,000. The vast majority of those expenditures are for salaries and employee benefits. Other than that, they just have normal everyday operating expenses. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those.
Any questions? Okay, I entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we accept the finance report as presented.
Second.
Motion second for the acceptance of the finance report as presented by Ms. Mills. Any further questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? No opposed. I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you. All right, item number 6, consider approval of City of Brunswick tax allocated district application, policy and procedures and resolution. Mr. Stiegel, are you on board?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I'm here.
Okay.
So this item that's up now in front of the commission, first of all, good afternoon, commission. This item that is up for vote is the adoption of the resolution amending the City of Brunswick's tax allocated district resolution from 2017. The new resolution that is before you is doing 3 things. The resolution is setting 2021 as the base year for the tax allocated district. It's also setting the number of parcels that will be included in the tax allocated district at 668 parcels. And it is also setting the taxable base amount at $24,086,851. So tonight we are asking for an approval of this amendment to the original resolution in 2017.
Okay, so question, so the baseline was established when we first did this back in 2017, whatever?
Yes, sir.
So but now it's an update. We're gonna establish a baseline here for 2021 moving forward.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It was never certified.
It was never certified, wasn't
Yeah.
completed.
Oh, well, the resolution had gone, but we had, yes, that's correct. We never certified it back in 2017.
So this basically is gonna be a certification, so, and then it would be our baseline as well.
Yes, sir, but there is one other step to the certification process. And that last step is a letter that will be sent out by City Manager McDuffie.
Okay.
The state's revenue department.
Right.
Point of clarity. Is it 2021 or 2020? It's 2020 figures that we're using, is it not? Not 2021.
Yeah, I thought it was 2020 as well.
20, yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. Yes.
So and we'll make sure of that on the resolution, because the resolution does say base year to 2021. So that needs to be 2020.
So we should receive that increment, that incremental increase, which hopefully there will be in tax year 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
20, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
I'd like to make sure that we have that added to the financial report, if we could, once we.
Yes, that'd be great. Ms. Mills, did you understand that, what we're saying, asking? She's not on anymore.
Talking about categorizing the tab.
Well, adding just a report on
Yes.
the financial report that says what is being generated by the tax allocation.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right, okay.
Yes, thank you. We'll get that done.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other
And
questions?
making that change on this,
Yeah, making a change to 2020 instead of 2021. Yeah, I think the city manager said she will make sure that happens. And before I sign it, well, I'll make sure too before I sign it.
So I had a question, Travis, about the time flow from step one of the application to the final process. How are we also looking at what an applicant has to go through, how long it takes, how many different stages, what the process is, so that we don't, create this lengthy time because, everybody meets at different times and you have to wait. Make sure that the flow is efficient and effective. Is that being looked at?
A couple of things. Yes, that is the first thing that amongst the first things that we looked at was how efficient this is going to be. One of the biggest, I guess, the biggest barrier that you will find in the process is not necessarily our meeting times. It's the developer being able to gather all of their information at one time and submit that application in. With the approval of the application and policies and procedures, it's pretty much streamlined. The next thing that we did as a city is to go a little step further. We've actually, in our contract with the Bleakley Group, is they're going to walk us through our first 3 or 4 of these projects as they come on board, right? So we can have a solid understanding about what we're going to do and how we're going to logistically move through these processes.
Did we take this application, because it is pretty onerous, I mean, and there's so many different moving pieces and parts to, I would imagine, any application, but did we sort of take the best of from other communities with TAD set up, or did we have to recreate this all together?
No. We did not have to recreate it. And the reason why it looks the way that it looks, not every project is going to be the same, right? They're going to be different sizes. They're going to be different uses. One may be more commercial than residential. One may be in a different sector. So as you kind of move through that application, some things are going to apply. Some things won't. But instead of us having a multitude of different applications, we can have one.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? We've been, as I said this evening, we have a number of these tools to help spur development in our city, and this is one of those tools as well. So, if there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the City of Brunswick tax allocation district application policy and procedure as presented by Mr. Stegall.
second,
Motion second for approval of the Brunswick tax allocated district application policy and procedures, and also this resolution. So any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposers? I believe the ayes have it and the motion carries. Thank you. Item number 7, consider approval of 18 alcohol license renewal. Ms. Mundy, our deputy marshal, will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight I have 18 businesses that has applied for renewal of their alcohol licensing and permits. These permits vary from beer, wine, and distilled spirits. The applicants have submitted all their necessary paperwork. Criminal backgrounds and fingerprinting have been conducted on the owners or managers. Nothing negative has been found on any application that would prevent the applicant from possessing an alcohol license. And I present this for your approval.
Okay, Commissioner, as you look through this list, are there anything you want to, anyone you want to point out or specifically say something about that before we ask for the vote on this collectively?
Are all of these for Sunday sales as well?
Ms. Mundy?
Oh, I'm here. I'm sorry. We have one with Sunday sales on here that is Tipsy McSway's. And, oh, I'm sorry, Olive Garden.
Well, there's other. Yeah. Basil. Mhm.
We can see it, I guess, on our screen, so on our.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything, Commissioner, that you see that you would like to add with this list of renewals petitioning us tonight?
I'll offer an approval, motion to approve the 18 alcohol license renewals that have been presented to us.
Second.
Motion is second for the approval of the 18 alcohol license renewals that's been presented to us this evening. Are there any further questions or comments? Hearing all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? All right, that motion carries. Ms. Mundy, please let the individuals know about the license renewal, okay?
I will, sir. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Item number 8, consider approval of memorandum of understanding with Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife Resources Division. Our city manager, Ms. McDuffie, will be presenting.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
This memorandum of agreement is a renewal of this item. I was contacted by Mr. Clay George, who works with the DNR Wildlife Resources Division, about an agreement that basically is set to expire in February of next year. The original agreement was put in place in 2011. And it basically is to grant temporary access to the Andrews Island Causeway for the purpose of disposing of right whale carcasses if needed. This is not something that occurs often and did not occur during the time from 2011 to date. But the DNR wants to renew so that they will have this agreement in place if the need arises. There is no cost associated with it, the renewal of the agreement, and the agreement does stipulate that the city can request a reimbursement of up to $4,999 of expenses if incurred during any of this process. Mr. George is here to provide additional information for this renewal.
Sir, next, step forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I'm a senior wildlife biologist with the Georgia DNR, and I run the program that involves right whale research. I provided a proposal to Ms. McDuffie prior to the holiday, and have copies here if you have did not receive that. But I can briefly summarize what the work entails if that would help. So many of you may be aware that North Atlantic right whales are critically endangered and that they calve off our coast during the winter months. Documenting causes of whale mortality is critical to the monitoring work we do to help save the species. On some occasions, rarely, carcasses of whales are found floating offshore. If left to float with wind and currents, the whale carcasses can be hazards to marine navigation and can wash ashore unexpectedly on public beaches. These animals are 45 to 50 feet long and can weigh 40 or 50 tons. So it could be very problematic if one washed on ashore on Jekyll or St. Simons or Sea Island. We have only identified one location on the southern and central portion of the Georgia coast where we can haul the animals, the carcasses ashore and do a dissection and then dispose of them. And that location is the what many people call the Andrews Island Causeway Beach there across from the Brunswick City Marina. We have permission to do the disposal work at the Andrews Island facility that's owned by Georgia Department of Transportation. So that last MOA was a 10-year MOA, and I'm here tonight hoping that you'll consider to renew a similar MOA for the next 10 years.
Well, Mr. George, I have to ask the question since we started this meeting off with air quality. I'm sorry, but it's the whale in the room.
Sure.
So to speak.
Yes, it is.
How would this affect odors, and not just odors, but maybe over what period of time? And then how do you actually dispose of the whale for it then not to contaminate the ocean or groundwater and that sort of thing?
Sure. So firstly, we have to tow it to shore, which takes generally about a day. The last time we did this, we didn't have a site in Georgia, so we had to tow a whale to Florida, actually. That was in the late 2000s. Once we get it to the site, we would already have excavators and other heavy equipment there at the ready. We would use that to pull it up on shore, essentially like a large boat ramp. We would beach it. And then the following day, we would dissect it. It takes about a day to dissect one. There may be an odor associated with that during that 1 or 2 day period. The closest property owner that has any development on it is, of course, the Torres family across the way. It's I think about 250 yards from that location. It is during the winter months, which is more optimal from that perspective. I can tell you, having worked on about a half dozen of these types of cases, that you typically cannot smell it more than a couple hundred yards away. I've talked with Mr. Torres, as you would imagine, prior to tonight, and he did raise that concern. I told him that the only thing I could say is it would be very temporary, on the order of 2, possibly 3 days tops. And that as a homeowner in the city of Brunswick, I certainly don't want to bring anything into town that would create any problems for everyone.
Do y'all have the capability, and I realize it's rather remote and there's no electrical outlet necessarily, but maybe gas powered, vacuum and filter it if that's needed to just.
They're big is the problem. It's really hard to deal with something this size, which is one of the reasons we try to be proactive and actually dispose of them properly rather than let them float around willy-nilly. It also requires 20 to 30 people and a lot of heavy equipment move. It's essentially a construction site for a very temporary period of time. So I haven't considered that previously, but my initial thought is that it likely wouldn't be practical. As far as cleanup, we can bring in pumps to hose down the beach and the like, but some of that would just be a matter of after a couple tidal cycles, the water would just cycle and you wouldn't know it's there. The last time we did one of these cases in Florida, within a week, it was not evident that anything had happened at the site.
So correct me if I'm wrong, that's on the city portion. I know there was I think a map, but the ramp would need to probably be closed then to the public for.
Yeah, it's unclear to me exactly how. I don't think that's a regulated ramp. I don't think the DNR regulates any activity there. It's kind of first come, first served. Some people do pull boats up there, and obviously people do fish and such. One part that we've mentioned in the proposal is that it may require we may require some law enforcement to kind of contain the site for that period of time. Georgia DOT and the Army Corps of Engineers recognize that it might impinge on their ability to get trucks in and out of the dredge spoil site for a couple of days, but they're fine with that. And we, of course, have DNR law enforcement that could help with that. We don't have any intention of, the city wouldn't be required or expected to do anything. In fact, we have the resources to do the work ourselves.
So then where does the whale actually get buried?
Are you familiar with the gate at the end of the causeway where right before you go into the dredge containment facility? Basically at the end of the south end of the causeway, there's a gate.
Diagram there.
Okay.
And right on either side of that, there's an upland area that's above water line that the Georgia DOT has given us permission to use. And it requires a fairly small, much smaller area for disposal than you would assume, about 10 by 15 by 6 feet deep.
So you you move it all the way around?
We'd basically have dump trucks on site, and as it's taken
Okay.
apart, we would move it bit by bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a request, I recognize.
So what happened to these carcasses before this project?
Great question. Sometimes they float for weeks at a time. In fact, there was one off South Carolina last year that did float around for 2+ weeks. Eventually, they're scavenged by sharks and they fall to the ocean floor. But in that case in South Carolina, the carcass came within about 3 miles of landing on a beach in South Carolina. So that's the exact type of thing we're trying to keep from happening.
So what's the average of the right whales that's actually spotted? Do you expect to have to surface?
I think I have a note here that in one point is that the timing of these events can't be predicted. That's important to note. But the whales typically don't arrive until about Thanksgiving and they're gone by March. So it is typically just in the winter months. 2 carcasses have been found offshore of Brunswick since 2004. So it's not a common thing, but numbers can go up and down. So it's not impossible that you could have a couple within a few year period. It's just impossible to predict.
How far offshore is your jurisdiction to pull these back, to pull these in?
Well, there's practical constraints, as you would imagine. At some point, it becomes too cost prohibitive to go out and bring them back, and it ceases to be a concern as far as it washing ashore. We tend to work and survey within about 30 miles of shore.
Okay, sir, thank you so much for that. Commissioner, we have this memorandum. I'll tell you, eventually Andrews Island is gonna get developed. I know, so if 10 years from now, hopefully we can use Andrews Island as a development site, much like Hutchinson Island is to Savannah. However, right now it's not being used and we are environmental friendly around here. So, Commissioner, any other comments or questions you have?
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement with the DNR Wildlife Resource Division.
Second.
MOA.
There's been a motion and second for the approval of the MOU with Department of Natural Resources, Wildlife Resources Division in the city of Brunswick. Any other further questions or comments?
This is an MOA. Memorandum of Agreement.
Yeah, okay.
And it is a temporary access to the Andrews Island Causeway for the purpose of disposing of right whale carcasses. Full motion.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure I have a second to that full
Yes,
motion.
sir. Full second.
Full second. I got a full motion, a full second. Are there any comments? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? But no opposers, I believe we have full yays, I guess. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Casey.
Thank you.
Item number 9, consider approval of resolution 2021-18 between Department of Natural Resources and the City of Brunswick for a grant land and water conservation fund grant for Orange Park improvements and to authorize the mayor to execute the grant contract. Mr. Duffy and Mr. Hill. Yes, sir.
Good evening again.
Ma'am.
You'll recall last October, we submitted a grant application for the Land and Water Conservation Fund to fund the installation of the splash pad that was originally slated for Mary Ross Park. and put that at Orange Park, where at one time there was a swimming pool there. This grant would also fund the construction of a couple of picnic shelters at that park, the resurfacing of the basketball courts, some additional lighting, handicap parking, a sidewalk through the park for handicapped access, and a restroom and utility building. We were awarded the grant. So this resolution is the boilerplate state resolution accepting the grant and then allowing the mayor to sign the grant paperwork. And there were a couple of items from the Historic Preservation Division about the project, and we are rectifying those. It was pretty simple. It was provide some history about the park and what was there, and then just some pictures and drawings. So that is underway.
Thank you. And the grant is?
The grant is for $185,150.
Great.
So then, Ms. McDuffie, are you going to talk about the full budget?
Which full budget for the
For
Orange
Park
Park project? Well, yes, the grant, as you know, we applied for this, and as much as I love the state and their granting process, you know, we expected them to award it back in July. But thankfully, we do have the money coming in, and hopefully we can get this done before Memorial Day or early summer. But we do have funding that we're requesting from some outside sources, in addition to the city's funding that's coming from the SPLOST. So we will match the $185,150, and then the remaining portion will come from in-kind and some other sources. You can see the itemized budget for the installation and bathroom, playground, and the other improvements that Matthew reviewed.
So the 27,700 is in kind? That's all being provided by entities other than the city, is that correct?
Well, actually, that particular portion needs to be revised because the Port Authority has pledged a little bit more than that amount. So we'll re-engineer that, but I think the total amount that we had basically had pledged was 27,000. I think the only part of that that's in kind is the 2,700 from Golden Owls. Keep Golden Owls beautiful.
Okay, so that's money coming in, not going out per se.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, it's good to see our local organization contributing to help us beautify our parks as well. And I want to commend you for coming in and getting our parks, making them where they are. So that putting priority on that just for us. Thank you so much for that. So commissioners, are there any further questions or comments on this item?
Yes, I've got a question about the splash pad installation and the bathroom and equipment building for it. That's $248,000, and that's a lot of money.
Well, we estimated the bathroom based on the restroom facilities that were installed over at Overlook Park and at Lanier. I mean, yeah, Liberty Park. So that's the reason that 100, it's a kind of a self-contained unit, but that's the price that we outlined, and it may be a little bit more since materials and supplies are cut back. I mean, you know, in demand right now.
That is just so much money to put in that park. It is unbelievable. I know we got the splash pad, but sometimes, you know, you have to think about this kind of money. I'm concerned with something else I'd like to ask too about the splash pad. How much maintenance is the splash pad going to require?
It's not a high maintenance item, especially in the first few years of operation. That's one of the reasons why more cities have moved to splash pads versus swimming pools, because of the less maintenance for the items. The equipment that's used will be, installed for it's mechanical, and of course, something can go wrong. But I think it has a pretty long useful life in terms of the actual equipment that runs the splash pad. I can't attest to what the total amount of maintenance would be, but I would think it would be less than $10,000 or $15,000 a year.
Will it require supervision?
No, it won't require supervision. It's on a timer, so children can go and push a button and it'll run for 5 minutes and then it stops. And after dark, it won't run at all. But it's a 0 water level pad, so there's no danger of drowning or anything like that, much like the one in Savannah at Ellis Square.
So it won't require supervision at all?
No, it's kind of like a playground, it's a playground with water squirting out of it. And hopefully, people will be cautious in terms of children, but just as they can get hurt on a playground, it's kind of at your own risk.
What is the occupancy of this splash pad? Do you know that?
No, I think the URA can tell us all of that, Commissioner Casey. Because they had all that information when we was trying to install it at Mary Ross Park. And I can get the chairman of the URA to get the information to you, or get it to Matthew and get that to you.
Well, I am really concerned about the cost of this thing, and I'm also concerned with the possibility of folks, overloading this thing, there being an accident, and I think we really need to think it out. Be sure that we're doing the right thing here.
Well, we have this splash pad.
I understand. I stated that. I said, I know we've got the splash pad, but I still got some concern.
And the longer we keep it and not use it,
it's gonna cost us a lot more money in the future.
It's just sad too as well.
It's just some questions that I think need to be thought out pretty well, okay?
Any other questions?
Might not be a bad idea just to monitor it the first summer, periodically, just go by. Kids are out of school and, I can see how
Well, as we
something
develop
new and-
our Parks and Recreation program, then we would probably be able to, encompass that in the staffing of monitoring the splash pad, because in a year or so from now, we will be taking over Howard Coffin Pool. We'll have other facilities. So yes, we should have better monitoring capabilities.
Okay.
Realistically, Regina, when do you think this will be installed and the park will be operational?
The installation of the splash pad, it doesn't take that very long. I'm not sure. Do you know the timetable for the DNR grant to be finalized?
It's final.
So it's final, so we're good.
We can start as soon as the grant agreement is signed and submitted back, the project can start.
Yeah, and since we have the equipment already, I think the biggest part is the bathroom installation, and possibly, within the next 6 months, we should be able to get this project at least 75 to 80% completed, and then at least by midsummer, have it operational.
Well, you wouldn't want to have it operational during the winter time, so I think that's something to think out too, is when to have it operational. Try to, have a goal for it. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, commissioners? If not, we have this this item before us. What's your will and pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we approve the resolution 21-18. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah. No.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's the right one. Between the Department of Natural Resources and the City of Brunswick for grant Land and Water Conservation Fund grant for Orange Park improvements, and to authorize the mayor to execute the grant contract.
Second.
Motion is second for the approval of resolution 2021-18 for Orange Park improvements. Are there any further comments or questions?
I'm excited. And I echo the sentiments of the mayor with you, Regina, and all of the staff that are working diligently to improve all of our parks. We've invested so much money into Howard Coffin Park, and we're investing money in all of these other parks in other communities. And for it to be on an even keel and equitable, I am excited about the improvements that's about to take place at Orange Park.
Any other comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 The opposes? Hearing nothing from the opposing side, I believe the ayes have it. That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hill. Okay, we're at item number 10, excuse me. We're at item number 11, city attorney items. Item number, discussion of the proposed short-term rental ordinance.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good evening.
Before you tonight, and I'll need to pull it up, give me one moment, this is an ordinance, there's a draft of an ordinance that has been brought to our attention by commissioners, by the audit committee. The city manager has worked to bring it forward. She and I and Matthew Hill and John Hunter have all taken a role in putting this ordinance together, as well as the audit committee, very helpful in getting this done. The city manager and I and John met this morning just to make sure and go through one more time the ordinance as it's written. The main purpose and what I'd like to point out first is that this is something that we are starting to see occur in the city of Brunswick. We do have short-term rentals. This is commonly referred to VRBO, Airbnb. I think there's another website that's offering these as well, but we have seen a slight uptick in those types of businesses in the city. If you recall, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, Glen County endeavored into setting up and passing their own short-term rental ordinance because there may be overlap or ownership of similar types properties in the city and the county. And because in the past we have started to try to make our ordinances, such as the alcohol ordinance, similar to the sign ordinance, now the short-term rental ordinance, somewhat uniform, or at least as closely paralleling the counties as possible. I went to the Glen County version that has been passed, the short-term rental ordinance. I utilized it in making this draft. I also looked to Atlanta's and Savannah's and trying to take into consideration how we might move forward. So essentially what you have before you is primarily based off Glen County. So I do think that there will be good synergy. There will be a good parallel between the county and the city. If someone were to elect to own a short-term rental property in the city as well in the county, I think it'd be a very similar process that they could go through, similar regulations and a similar understanding of what is expected of them as they rent their property out. I don't know if there's any specific questions right now, but I'll start to go through the ordinance if that's all right.
Sure.
All right. Obviously, we have a basic definitions. What I'd seen done in Savannah and what is done in the county is the issuance of an accommodation excise tax certificate. So, people commonly refer to as business licenses. In reality, it's an occupational tax license. This would be an accommodation excise tax certificate. And it's named that because the taxes that these owners would be paying back to the city and are now paying to the county are hotel motel taxes essentially. So as they rent these properties out, it is the city already has an ordinance on the books excising hotel motel taxes. So an accommodation excise tax is hotel motel tax. We would be issuing these similar to how we would be issuing occupational taxes, tax certificate or business license. The applicants for these licenses would be going through John's department, planning, codes and development department. It would be essentially for an annual fee of $150. They would submit their application. You'll see the discussion in there that if they do it after July 1st, it's a $75 fee prorated for the first year. And then they would continue to renew for $150 as going forward. The crux of this is to regulate, so that there's a clear instruction for someone who's renting a house out as to making sure that their proposed tenants would have the correct parking where they know where to park, they know trash receptacles, they do not, violate the city's current ordinances, that the owners of the property are up to date on their ad valorem taxes, that the properties that are being written are not in violation with our current ordinances or building codes, that we have a general understanding of the number and use of the properties located within the city, that they are used for their zoned purpose. A single family residence cannot be split up into an Airbnb that services multiple tenants at one time. So if it is, obviously if they own two townhomes next to each other, they could use it for multifamily. If they own a single family residence, is limited to the single family residence use. I've hit, I think, what is the most, I guess, the bones of it. Again, if there's any questions as I go along, please let me know. It's before you tonight just for discussion. I did present it to the audit committee. I haven't received any comments back yet, but they were obviously very, looking forward to getting this ordinance on the book. It's something that they have also been pursuing. That we still have time, of course, if we elect to go forward tonight and advertise, to receive more comments from the public. But if we were to go forward, I would expect that we could have it for a vote of approval at the next meeting and begin taking steps to implementing it. One of the things that the county has done is utilize the third-party vendor to help track help monitor and accept applications for the rental of these properties, including the collection of the hotel motel taxes. John's very familiar with that process, and I think he's probably looking to do something similar to that, similar to the way the county does it. We already have some of these rental companies submitting excise tax payments to the city. So it appears that, I think this is getting to be a norm in most cities and counties to put together some sort of short-term rental ordinance. So if that is the will of the commission, we'd look to advertise and bring it back on the 15th for approval.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
One, I didn't see anything mentioned about noise ordinance.
There is a specific mention to noise ordinance,
Where
actually.
was that?
She might know because we just did it today.
It is definitely in there. I can't tell you where it is, but it's there.
27-7.
27.7, yeah,
F.
operation
5.
F5.
That is the first
Thank you.
reference that
Okay.
so if they are renting the property out, they have to provide certain information to any tenants. One of those is the city's noise ordinance regulations and a statement notifying the occupants that any failure to comply with the city's noise ordinance is a violation of this ordinance. It's further noted under 27-12 certificate suspensions and revocations. So similar to how we have in our alcohol ordinance, we do, of course, set forth that these excise tax certificates can be suspended or revoked if there's multitude of, if there's a number of noise ordinance violations, if they're adding up on the properties, it's kind of the same thing as underage drinking as they go along and make their, runs. And if a business begins to build those types of violations up, it's brought before the city commission for consideration.
And then can you, under section 27-11, violations and penalties?
Okay.
Those 4 items, it says upon conviction, upon conviction, upon conviction. What is conviction?
I think these would likely be code enforcement like citations that would be brought through municipal court.
Okay, so a neighbor complains, let's just say, somebody, city staff goes out, whoever the designated person is to regulate.
Code enforcement's under John's
Code
department, so they would go
enforcement,
out. For example, a good example would be to give parking violations. If you haven't regulated the parking on the property that you're renting and you end up with tenants continuously overflowing into either a neighboring property, or we obviously have parking on the street regulations, that continues to happen. I mean, I think would be brought through municipal court. As we develop this, I'm sure we'll try to work with any owners that are renting their properties out to make sure that they understand if they continuously have run into municipal court. But yeah, I would consider that a conviction in municipal court of a code enforcement violation.
Okay, so it's not really a conviction until it goes to that point.
That's correct. I mean, you could similarly, I think, we did put a catch-all in there that if it's a violation of any city ordinance, state law, or regulation. So I mean, you could, in concept, if you have an unruly party that could go through state court, underage drinking would come through municipal court. So I would expect that most of it would be coming through municipal court. So there's a possibility that it could have police intervention other than code enforcement.
Yeah, I would think so, because a lot of this is going to happen after business hours, after city staff hours. So, if it's a noise, the police are probably non-emergency going to be called, and too many cars or whatever the case is. Okay.
I don't know if that's. Sorry, I don't know. I don't know if that's that.
It's your hair, man. It's your hair.
And this will run on a calendar year.
That's correct.
Mhm.
It'll be like an occupational tax. It'll be like a business license in the city. You'll receive your renewal notice we talked about it today, October, I think.
Mhm.
And then that would be for calendar January 1, December 31st of the next year. The ordinance would not go into effect until July 1st because John talked about having some time next year to sort of put together that if we go for a third party vendor and putting together the application and making sure that the process is in place before people start coming in.
It's a pretty big deal.
So
yeah.
the county's already in place now?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's already, we haven't gotten ours yet.
I think they have about a year fully operational of the ordinance.
It took a long time.
Right.
Has anybody done any research within the city of Brunswick to know approximately how many Airbnb, VRBOs, et cetera, we have?
The Convention and Visitors Bureau had some information.
Right.
And as Ryan said, we've already got people paying
Yeah,
taxes.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, but they did report. I
can't remember.
I know it was more than 30.
Oh, I would think it's more than 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John has a good, should have asked him to stick around, but I think he also has a pretty good running knowledge of maybe how many there are. But yeah, I think it was higher than that number.
Yeah. Because
Pretty
somebody,
much all over town, and people are buying places left and right here to do them Airbnb.
and it's gonna take some staff time too to go online and look and make sure that people have in their verbiage the what they're required to as far as their excise tax number.
And if ad valorem
yeah.
we'd have to go with Tina as we identify the properties to make sure that they're paid up to date.
My grandparents' home out on 99 is listed Airbnb for $875 a night. Brand new listing. It's on Airbnb. Sidebar. Brian, I see here that you've got a few Glen counties and a few Board of Commissioners in here. Just the verbiage needs a little check in there.
It may have been cleaned up since I only have one Glen County in the most recent
I'm
version.
looking at one here on item H. I can tell you where it is, but I saw some others when I was reading through this thing. I didn't write them down.
The only one that should be in there at the moment is under item H. We did designate the local point of contact, or point of contact under the definition means a person located in Glen County. We felt that if it was a property owner.
That made sense to me.
Sure.
So Commissioner Cation, you may be seeing some, but they should have been, we have caught those since in the most recent iteration.
Yeah, Board of Commissioners, that's the county. We're the city commission, right?
I've always, I think it's rather interchangeable, but I've always considered the City of Brunswick Board of Commissioners, but I could.
Well, I'll go with it then.
Thank you.
I'm fine.
So I would say we move forward and with a public hearing next.
All right.
Get it advertised.
And I'll send Naomi the most recent versions, the one we've cleaned up. And
Well, seeing that Commissioner Martin has spoken, anyone else?
I'm sorry.
No. To go ahead, go and get it going. But that's the opinion of the commission?
Yes, sir.
I would agree to moving it forward, and I know this is, and I don't know if anybody's thinking about that. This is going to cause some extra work on our already strained code enforcement department.
If you go with the county's way of doing it, it will take some of the burden off of it.
And I will say, I think I can't remember if this conversation was with Chris in John's department, and obviously he also serves in code enforcement capacity in some occasions, that if they are offering these properties as an Airbnb or a VRBO, they are typically trying to maintain them so that they can garner the highest price. So it's typical that they're kept up, maintained. It's the tenants when they're there that you need to be more mindful of. So there still will be that strain, but hopefully we won't have it on the appearance and the inspections.
Yeah, I don't think that would be the problem.
No, I think it's gonna be more during the actual course of the rental.
During the course of the rental,
Airbnb is pretty stringent. They have some really rigid criteria for listing, and that includes
Florida weekend. So
that's just for listing, Johnny. That ain't
no, it's for actuality. I'm into some of it, and it's pretty stringent. It really is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's just on paper. Because I've been to several of them.
Or you don't get the rentals. If you do not comply. Brian, another thing it would probably be good, if you don't mind, is to bring back to us the company that the county is using to keep up with all this stuff.
I suspect we'll be doing that in the next 6 months. That's part of the task. That's part of what John has identified that we can get done. That's why we're staggering the effective date as to July 1st. So we'll be bringing that back to you guys.
And this is just something that shows us that as we grow, we're needing to increase our code enforcement officers.
Yeah, you're right. As we grow, our staff has to grow too. As we take on more services. I think what happened is we drew down quite a bit during the recession to bare minimum, and now we're beginning to find our way back to where we need to be. So it's going to take additional staff, as I think City Manager alluded to. Okay, so you got your orders to move forward with it.
All right.
Okay. Item number 12-1, consider approval of resolution 2021-19 to accept the material terms of the distributor and Janssen settlements pursuant to the Georgia Memorandum of Understanding and consistent with the terms of the July 2021 National Opioid Settlement Agreements.
Okay, so bear with me here.
Yes.
As you guys have been aware, and I've been trying to keep and Commissioner Casey has been doing a good job on his own, but trying to keep abreast of how the nationwide opioid litigation is going, the multi-district litigation of which the city and Glen County are a part of. Last time I think we spoke, I kind of informed you that there were some serious settlement negotiations going on. And now that there is a structured settlement in the state of Georgia, and the Georgia Attorney General's office is seeking participation from cities and counties. So what we have before us tonight is there's items. It's difficult because while there is a universal or global settlement in the state right now, before that was finally reached, certain distributors and manufacturers were reaching their own settlement agreements. If you take a look at the settlement document that has the forward at the front, it gives a little bit of a breakdown as to what these parties are doing. This is the MOU that the Attorney General has put together between the state of Georgia and certain distributors and developers. So the distributors, defendants, namely McKesson, AmerisourceBergen, Cardinal Health, and Janssen, are two of their own. So there's a group called the Settling Distributors, and then Janssen, J&J is Johnson & Johnson. Because they have reached their settlement. So there's the one group and then the Johnson & Johnson, the distributors group and Johnson & Johnson have their own settlements. That is what the two forms are that I'm bringing before you tonight. Janssen Settlement Participation Form, Subdivision Distributor Settlement Participation Form. The distributors are listed in the first page of the MOU. AmerisourceBergen, Cardinal Health, McKesson. The Janssen is the Johnson & Johnson. Okay, I'm trying to do my best to keep this as simple as humanly possible. What I'm asking for tonight is authorization from the city commission to execute. They have listed me as the authorized party. I think that was just, they looked, saw city attorney, plugged me into the form. So I'm now asking you for authorization to execute the distributor settlement participation form, the Janssen, which is Johnson & Johnson Settlement Participation Form, and the state of Georgia and local government's memorandum of understanding concerning national distributor and Johnson & Johnson opioid settlements. It's a mouthful for even myself. So what the MOU, the master MOU that I'm asking you to authorize me to sign is doing is saying these groups, the distributor group and Johnson & Johnson, have already reached global settlements. We know that there are going to be additional LGs, is what they're calling them, local governments, and additional opioid defendants that are going to come forward and need to enter into similar settlement agreements. So the master MOU is bringing them all into the same group. And I think I've talked about this. It's a structured settlement where it's almost like a plug and play, size of city, cause of damage.
Is there a deadline upon which you?
Yes, and it is December 3rd.
Okay, that's right.
So that is why there's also a resolution before you tonight. The emergency resolution, I don't consider it an emergency. I had these documents. I knew that we'd have the opportunity to do them tonight. It just so happens that they're due on December 3rd. The county is reviewing and taking up their documents tomorrow night. But there's also a resolution. The resolution, because I was able to get it in Word form, I have been able to make it the signature would be for the mayor to sign, which I think is appropriate, attested to by the city clerk. The MOU is accepting the material terms of the distributor and Janssen settlement agreements pursuant to the Georgia MOU. So the Georgia MOU.
National distributor and subdivision distributor. I mean, is there a difference? You don't have to go into it. I'm just.
Yes, it's defined. Hold on. it is defined in the master agreement because there's also regional distributors.
Okay,
So it's kind of like this,
pecking order.
yes,
Thank you.
hierarchy of
That's
who's in
sufficient.
line.
Okay.
So
So the resolution is authorizing us to enter into the MOU and the Jansen settlement and the distributor settlement.
So let me ask you this, can we, do we have to approve each one of these separately or can we just
I would
put them all
ask,
together and approve them?
since the mayor is signing the resolution, I would ask that the resolution be
Resolution be
approved
separate?
first. Yes, please. And then that the other three, I think since it would be authorizing city attorney to execute the remaining three, those could be done as one item if you wish.
Okay,
All right. Is that? I hope I did.
so hopefully our city attorney made that clear as 10B. And we do have this resolution that needs to be signed for the settlement.
So it's one resolution, but
And
it's two different memorandum of understandings or?
No.
No, it's so the emergency resolution to accept the material terms of the distributor,
Okay,
which is the companies I listed earlier. The Jansen, which is J&J,
right.
settlements pursuant to the Georgia MOU, which is the larger document that you have before you that's going to encapsulate all of the remaining entities that would be settling. And it's consistent with the terms of the July 21st the global opioid settlement agreement.
So that's the motion that you need initially.
Yes, please.
I will make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-19 to accept the material terms of the distributor and Jansen or J&J settlements pursuant to the Georgia Memorandum of Understanding and consistent with the terms of the July 21st, 2021 National Opioid Settlement Agreements.
Second.
Motion second for the approval of that resolution 2021-19. Any further questions or comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposers? That motion carries. Okay, item number 2, 3, and 4 is authorizing the city attorney to execute a memorandum of understanding concerning national distributor and Johnson opioid settlement. Authorizing the city attorney to execute the Jansen settlement participation form and authorizing the city attorney to execute the subdivision distributor participation form.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second for those 3 items. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposers? No opposers, that motion carries too. Don't get us that money, okay?
I'm trying.
All right. Item number 13, consider approval of increase in employee life insurance. Ms. McDuffie, I'm gonna brief that one.
Okay, good evening again. This is just an enhancement to a current benefit. Currently, the city offers life insurance to each of its employees in 2 classes. Class 1 is for executive and it's $20,000. Class 2 is general and it's $15,000. We looked at some numbers to see what it would do to increase this benefit. And the reason, of course, that we're looking at increasing is because we want to be competitive in our benefits that we offer to our employees. We try to be as competitive as possible, but we, got to look at salaries as much as we can, but in the affordability, we also have to look at other benefits that the city offers. So we were looking at our life insurance and basically what the cost would be to offer a one-time the salary up to $100,000 benefit to our employees. The cost of that is $21,900, I think $44. I'm not quite to my spreadsheet right now. But we wanted to increase that benefit for the employees to just enhance and be competitive in that area. Let's see if I can rotate the screen. So the cost right now is around $7,000. It will increase. It was going to increase to $9,300 if we stayed with the same carrier, or $7,600 with the same plan with the different carrier. What we're requesting is that we enhance this benefit for our employees to offer a life insurance of 1 times their salary. This will be an additional cost of about $15,000 a year. It equates to about $92 per person for our employees' benefit for the year. And we thought that this is something, it's competitive with the county. The county currently offers 1 time the salary up to $125,000 a year. So this is something that we would like to do, just enhance our offering to new people that we recruit, and for retention of our employees.
So this would take effect
January
January
1st.
1st.
Yes.
For all currently.
All current employees.
Yeah, all current.
We have a census right now of 161 employees that participate in our health insurance program. And it's based on that and the current salaries.
Well, I thank you for thinking of our employees, really. That's good. Since you've been here, that's what you've been doing. So thank you for even more. And also this life insurance. Commissioners, we have this, the city manager told us the nominal increase in the city have to pay for this, but our employees are our greatest assets, that without them, we couldn't do anything. So I want to make sure that we take care of them just as well.
Yeah, this came through the finance committee as well, and we both all agreed that it would be something that would be beneficial to our city employees and to help with retention and other things as well.
Okay.
Invested in our workforce power.
Yes, and if you all have people, that we talked about code enforcement, that's been a hard position to fill. So we are looking diligently to fill positions, but we're also looking at, what we can offer to entice and incentivize that process.
Okay, so I'll entertain the motion, please.
I'll make a motion that we approve the increase in employee life insurance as a benefit to our employees as outlined by Ms. McDuffie.
Second.
Motion second for approval of increase in employee life insurance as presented by our city manager. Are there any further questions or comments? All in favor, please.
The only thing I'd like to say, Cornell, is if I may, before we vote on this, is we print an agenda, and to me, to change the agenda, to add this item, this would be a good thing to have the community notified that we're doing this. Now, I'm willing to go ahead with it. I'm just saying that I think this is not, is it an emergency that we do this tonight, Regina?
It has to be approved in order for them to get the paperwork done for it to go into effect, yes.
Well, then I have no.
Are you agreeing with the vote or against it?
Pardon me?
Are you agreeing with the vote? I asked the vote already.
I was just making a comment. If you call the vote, I'll vote for it.
I already called the vote. I'm sorry, you missed that out by a second or two.
Well, we're having some audio problems. I apologize.
No problem. Are you voting for?
I'll vote for it, yes.
Okay, and your comments are noted too as well.
I think they're good comments. I really do, because I think the public deserves to know what we're doing.
Yes, they're noted. Thanks. Appreciate it. And all right. We have come to the end of our printed agenda. I would just like to add something or say something that I was approached to do something about this trial that came forth, the city of Brunswick recently, or been here for a good while here, and to do something to name a street in honor of Ahmaud Arbery. What was proposed was an honorary, just like we did for honorary street for Bishop Harry Brown on N Street. And so the proposal was for Albany Street, since it goes down where the African American Museum and also the former Roxy Theater and so forth. But it would be honorary. The name Albany Street would not change, but it would be honorary Ahmaud Arbery Avenue. However, I was asking for this to be put on our agenda for our next meeting, so we can vote on the next meeting. And if we have any issues or concerns that it should not be there, we will make the altercation then. Alteration, excuse me. So we come to the end of our printed agenda. There's a need for executive session for
Real estate and litigation.
real estate and litigation.
Tonight?
I need a motion to go into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer a motion that we adjourn to executive session for real estate and litigation.
Second.
We have the link.
A motion second.
I think Mayor Pro Tem was actually.
Yes, they have a link. I think Naomi sent the link out.
Yeah, there's a link. Definitely.
Yeah, all in favor of doing that, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposes, we will go into executive session, after which we will come back and adjourn our regular meeting. We go into executive session. We are back from our executive session. We have had robust discussion and no vote taken on anything. Before I ask for a motion to adjourn, I want to thank everybody who I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and we will see you on our next meeting, which will be Commissioner Williams' last meeting and Cornell Harvey's last meeting, the mayor's last meeting as well. But we have a new mayor-elect, Cosby Johnson. We also have a new commissioner-elect, Kendra Rowe. Hopefully they'll be joining us in our last meeting or the meeting that we passed the gavel over to the new commission. Anyhow, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motions second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposers? Want to stay here?
Good night.
Good night, everybody. We stand adjourned.